Information on participating in this meeting and providing public comment, including remotely by Zoom or telephone, is available on the meeting's agenda, which is in the back and which is online at isearchmonterey.org. Remote commenters, you will be muted until it is your turn to speak, and a timer will be shown on the screen. If you are connected on Zoom, the timer is accurate with no delay. In-person attendees must keep phones and devices muted to prevent audio interference with the meeting. In addition, for all public in-person attendees, we are using the OWL system tonight, which is very sensitive to all surrounding noise. So we please ask to remain silent until it is your turn to speak. Thank you for participating in your city government.
So move on to roll call. You can roll.
Aguajita Oaks. Present. Alta Mesa. Casanova Oaknoll.
Present.
Deer Flats. Present. Del Monte Beach. Del Monte Grove, Laguna Grande. Here. Downtown. Here. Fisherman Flats. Present. Glenwood.
Here.
Monterey Vista.
Here.
New Monterey.
Here.
Oak Grove. Old Town.
Here.
Skyline. Good evening. And Villa Del Monte.
No, Tammy's, or,
We have Jill Johnson as the representative for Villa Del Monte. If you could please sit at the table. Yes. And we also have Luz Adams from Oak Grove present as well. So we have quorum.
So we're gonna call for public comments on matters that are not on the agenda and within the jurisdiction of NCIP. Are there any members of the public who'd like to make a comment? You can raise your hand. No. Is there anyone? Oh, sorry. So we have one. And so is there anyone online?
Sorry, Chairman, we are to do approval of minutes first, according to the agenda.
yeah, and then general public comment. I just,
Oh, sorry about that. So we'll call for approval of minutes of meeting held on August 15th, 2024.
I make a motion to approve.
Go ahead and take roll call on that.
Aguajita Oaks. Alta Mesa. Casanova Oaknoll.
Aye.
Deer Flats. Aye. Del Monte Beach.
Somebody Beach is not here.
Del Monte Grove, Laguna Grande.
Aye.
Downtown.
Aye.
Fisherman's Flats.
Aye.
Glenwood.
Aye.
Monterey Vista.
Aye.
New Monterey.
Aye.
Oak Grove.
Aye.
Old Town.
Aye.
Skyline.
Aye.
And Villa Del Monte.
Aye.
Thank you. Now public comment.
Now
Thank
we'll
you.
take public comments. So there's one person here. And anyone online? Yes. So we can do 3 minutes.
Oh, you could, there's a podium is right there.
I know
Okay, okay.
I need something displayed, please.
Oh, we don't have the ability, unfortunately. Sorry.
Something missing from the city code articles. Article 13, section 2-13. Neighborhood and a community improvement program committee. The representatives are from Aguajita Oaks, Alta Mesa, Casanova Oaknoll, Deer Flats, Del Monte Beach, Del Monte Grove, Laguna Grande, Downtown, Fisherman Flats, Glenwood, Monterey Vista, New Monterey, Oak Grove, Old Town, Skyline, and Villa Del Monte. And this is current city code.
in other neighborhoods, so-called, or not. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll go ahead and close general, public comment. And we'll move on to informational reports and staff comments. City staff are there any informational reports?
Oh, we're gonna start with a presentation by city attorney on the Brown Act. Yes. So let me. Give me one.
All right, thank you for having me, everybody. I'm Christine Davy. I'm the city attorney. And I'm honored to be here and invited by y'all tonight to give a presentation on everyone's favorite topic, the Brown Act. I know a lot of you have heard this before. I try to change it up a little bit, but it's a really important law, and so sometimes a refresher doesn't hurt. So, and I'll leave it to the discretion of the chair if you would like questions to come as I'm presenting, or do you prefer that the committee waits until the end of the presentation? I'm flexible either way, so you can just let them know. I'll tell you a little bit about myself and then we'll launch in. First, Snoopy is not to be disrespectful to this committee. It was festive sweater day and not dressed like this. And I'm wearing tennis shoes because I had a push ankle injury. So anyways, otherwise I'd be more sensible before it. But anyway, I appreciate you indulging me. I've been practicing law for about 29 years, and 19 of that I've worked for the city of Monterey, which has been such an exciting pleasure. It's a great city. And before that, I worked for about 5 years for the city of Salinas, and before that, with the district attorney's office in Fresno. So I've spent basically my entire career in public service, and so I want to convey to you all that I appreciate so much that you're volunteering your time on this super important and innovative committee. It's a lot of work. It's a grassroots organization at its finest. And so thank you for all you do. We do appreciate it. Okay, so I will now move on to the Brown Act. If you take away nothing else from this presentation, just know that we're here for you. So I'm the city attorney. We also have an assistant city attorney, Karen Solana, and a legal secretary, Alicia Salas, where if you have any questions, please feel free to contact my office. There's no such thing as a dumb question, other than not asking a question that we should ask. So please know that our door is open to you, and we are here to help you make your jobs easier if possible. So reach out. It's a great benefit that you have available to you, and feel free to use it. Okay. So you hear a lot about Ralph M. Brown and this Brown Act, and he gets a lot of the credit because it was his legislation, and he later became an appellate justice. But I feel like this guy here, Michael Harris, is really the one that should be getting the credit. In the 50s, he was a reporter for the San Francisco Chronicle, and in his first year working for the Chronicle, he learned that lots of members of public agencies were routinely barring reporters and other citizens from open and public meetings. So he did a 10-article expose, and it was called My Secret Government, Your Secret Government, where he wrote about the location and starting times of lots of public meetings were never announced or disclosed. He, as the press, was physically removed from several meetings and locked out of them, and these meetings were supposed to be public. So he wrote this 10 series expose on the secret government. And that is what prompted Ralph M. Brown, an assembly member, to propose legislation. Now we refer to it commonly as the Brown Act. So that's why we have that.
Yeah, it's whatever.
Sorry, technical difficulties.
For some reason, it's not duplicating the screen.
It's not duplicating on Zoom, so we're trying to
Oh.
troubleshoot why
Yeah.
it's not duplicating on Zoom.
So what is the Brown Act? The basic rule of the Brown Act, and I will mention to you, this is not that well known of a factoid, but this paragraph that's written up there on the screen, that was actually drafted by Mr. Harris, the reporter. And so that is in the legislative intent, and that has not changed, the language of it, and it was enacted in 1963. So Mr. Harris wrote this, and it holds true today, that the people of this state don't yield their sovereignty to the agencies which serve them. The people, in delegating authority, do not give their public servants the right to decide what is good for the people to know and what is not good for them to know. The people insist on remaining informed so that they may retain control over the instruments they have created. And that's been codified in the government code. So it's a very powerful and impactful statement there that hasn't changed over the years. So what is the basic rule of the Brown Act? It's that all meetings of a legislative body, and the Neighborhood and then Community Improvement Committee is a legislative body, shall be open and public, and all persons shall be permitted to attend any meeting of the legislative body. So you can't close the press out of here. You can't tell certain people they can come in or not. And it has to be open and public. That's part of our government. So the purpose is to give public access to decision-making and to provide oversight of that decision-making. And there's some exceptions that aren't really applicable to this board, closed sessions, for example, where the city council can discuss potential or pending litigation where you don't want to hinder the city's position in litigation because it's all done publicly when no one else has to talk about their litigation strategies or defenses or offenses publicly. So there's some narrow exceptions, but this board doesn't really fall into any of those. So who is subject to the Brown Act? Legislative bodies, which means newly elected or appointed members of a covered body prior to being sworn into office. So Ms. Brown, that covers her. She hasn't been sworn in yet, but she is newly elected. The City Council, the Planning Commission, ARC, HPC, that whole list up there, they're all subject to the Brown Act. One that may be unusual for you to learn about is that the business improvement districts are also subject to the Brown Act. So the Old Monterey Business Association, for example, is a legislative body under the Brown Act, and they will post their agendas, and their meetings are similarly open to the public. And also standing committees, we don't see this a lot on board and commissions, but standing committees might be appointed by the city council to have subject matter jurisdiction that's continuing and ongoing over a subject, meaning like at one time, I'll use this as an example, the city council had a standing committee to interview applicants for boards and commissions. When they had a standing committee, all those interviews were done in public and had to be agendized and noticed. Policy of the city council has changed, and so we don't have that at this time, but that's just an example of a standing committee.
But not neighborhood.
Yes, so that you predicted my next slide. Who is subject to the Brown Act? Legislative bodies, and up there I have the charter provision, which explains that this committee is a legislative committee under the Brown Act. But our neighborhood associations legislative bodies, Mr. Ganesh. They are not. Those are private organizations. They are not legislative bodies under the Brown Act. So what is a meeting? It seems so easy on its face, and then sometimes it gets complicated. So we'll go through that a little bit. So a meeting is a gathering of a majority of the members of a legislative body at the same time and location. That gets tricky too with technology. It's changed a bit since the 50s. The location could be in the internet world, to hear, discuss, deliberate, or take action upon any item within its subject matter jurisdiction. And no informal meetings are allowed. That's really the crux of the Brown Act. We can't all get together without telling people and make a bunch of decisions and conduct business outside of the public view. So informal meetings are not allowed. So you can't communicate against yourselves or use an intermediary to make decisions. So for example, I can't have a communication with Mr. Yanish and then tell Mr. Tipton exactly what Mr. Yanish said, and then go through all of you until I get to a quorum and I'm communicating to each one of you what the other said. That's not legal either. So we as staff are very mindful to not communicate to other members of legislative bodies what their counterparts, their colleagues are thinking or how they're gonna vote on a particular matter. That has to be done publicly, but we can have conversations with you individually. We just don't get to spread that around to others inadvertently, because then you can cause a meeting to take place. So what is a meeting? Under the Brown Act, any congregation of members of the legislative body at the same time and location, including teleconference locations, to hear, discuss, deliberate, or take any action on any item within the subject matter jurisdiction. And so what is an exception to this? So individual contacts are completely fine. That's not going to become a meeting. Maybe a majority of you find yourselves at a conference. That is also not a meeting, or a community meeting of another organization, or at a meeting of another legislative body. Let's say a quorum of the NCIP shows up at the Rec Park Commission or shows up at a city council meeting. That's completely legal. That's not a problem. And the reason for that is because that overall meeting is agendized. But the caveat is you can't all discuss amongst yourselves in the back of the room, you know, NCIP business. It has to just, your presence there has to be mindful of that, and your comments publicly based on the agenda of the meeting that you're attending. So serial meetings, I talked about this a little bit. The first example I gave you was the daisy chain. Or actually, I gave you the hub and spoke. I gave you the hub and spoke example where I'm that person in the middle there, and all of you are in the bicycle wheel around me, and I'm gathering information from one and telling it to the next, and then to the next, and then to the next, and that's a hub and spoke. Similarly, what you can't do is have a daisy chain. It's like the game of telephone, right? So Mr. Yanish can't whisper next door to Mr. Duke. On down the row, you know, you each are telling each other, oh, he said this, and then you repeat it and repeat it and repeat it. That's a daisy chain, so that's also not allowed. Now, where meetings get complicated potentially is with email. And so I caution everyone, if constituents or something, sometimes that's out of your control, emails all of you. All of you are emailed on something that's within the jurisdiction of the NCIP. Please don't hit reply all, because that could be a problem under the Brown Act based on technology that we have today. So just be very cautious about that. No reply alls. And similarly, if you're emailing each other, be careful that you're not emailing a quorum of the board. So it's best to just keep all your conversations and things in an open and public meeting. So let's go through some examples here. Can a majority of, let's say, the city council or the NCIP attend a neighborhood association meeting? The answer is no. No, you cannot, unless, and then there's always a caveat, right? But so let's say, I keep picking on Mr. Yanish because he's at the end of the table. Let's say Mr. Yanish, Monterey Vista, is having a neighborhood association meeting, but it's only open to his neighborhood association. It's not open to the whole public at large, like the entire city of Monterey. And let's say it's also only advertised to its membership, which is normally the case. Then that means no, you cannot attend that meeting. A quorum cannot attend that meeting under the Brown Act. That would be a violation. Now, if Skyline, Mr. Duke has, let's say he has a neighborhood association meeting and it's open to the entire public and it's widely advertised, he put some advertisement in the weekly and posted on internet pages and really did a broad disbursement of this meeting, then yes, a quorum of the NCIP could attend that meeting. And again, you just have to stick to the matter of business that's going on at that meeting and not deliberate amongst yourself on, I like that.
Light bulbs,
All of those.
light bulb. I don't know.
Yeah.
No, they rolled off. Huh? Yeah.
For those listening virtually, we have an incident within the meeting where some equipment in the building has fallen, so we are taking a brief pause until it's assessed.
Start like turning up these tables as barriers.
My mind went there.
Oh, you saw it?
I just need a quick announcement. Pause for those that are. There's another exit, so we can all do that.
So.
Oh, yeah, there is right here. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're fine. We're fine. Everything's okay. All's well.
Somebody, similar, we know. I thought we tried or something. Alvarado Street.
Got it cordoned off, it's a little compact. Cordoned off, one of the firemen.
Perhaps maybe a couple of days or something.
All right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Okay, yes. We're gonna have some folks from the city come clean it up so that we can leave safely.
We have another one.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're up there, they were non-mercury containing. Yeah, they're not mercury.
They're brand new though.
Yeah, they were stacked precariously. Ah, well, I didn't do that either. Oh my goodness. All right, well, that was exciting. They weren't mercury. They're not mercury. Oh, they're not mercury.
Get the brown.
Unlock this one.
Oh my God.
Let's unlock that one, we're good.
All right, where was I? Oh, we were on this one. Yeah, you can unlock it. I don't think it's locked.
The fire's not gonna.
Well, that was, all right, give me 1 second to make sure all the slides are back up. Sorry. I think we just finished 14, right? I believe so.
There was just a bunch of lights, I guess they just fell by themselves.
They were stacked up there. They weren't stacked properly. I
Yeah.
believe.
These light bulbs, the fluorescent, 8-foot light fluorescent.
Okay. so-
Never dull.
Good.
All right, I think we're good. We're good. Sorry. I had a. All right.
Okay. Can a majority of the NCIP attend a city council meeting? Yes, but the same rule applies where you can't talk amongst yourself about NCIP business. But yes, you can all be present at a city council meeting or a planning commission meeting or whatever. That's part of our legislative board.
Unless it's agendized.
Hmm?
Unless it's agendized, NCIP.
I'm not sure. What you mean. Oh, a joint meeting? Yeah, then, well, that, either way, you could be at a joint meeting of the city council and the NCIP, or you can all go to the city council agenda meeting.
Sorry.
So the majority of the NCIP attend a city of Seaside council meeting? Yes, you can. But the same rule applies. You can't talk about NCIP business in the back of the room or otherwise can't make decisions at that Seaside city council meeting, but it's perfectly legal for you all to be there.
Can I ask a question?
That's Tammy.
I just want to find out if we are all at a city council meeting. The only things that can be discussed are what is agendized on the agenda, correct?
On the city council meeting, correct.
Okay, or any other legislative city of Seaside, it has to be what is already on the agenda.
Right, except you as an individual would have the right to speak under public comment for items that are not on the agenda, if that were something you were
Okay.
looking to do.
All right, thank you.
Sure. Another hypothetical here, can a majority of the NCIP attend a community meeting hosted by, let's say, the city planning department? Let's say they're hosting a North Fremont specific plan outreach meeting. Can you do that? Answer is no, you cannot. So the community meetings exception that we've been sort of talking about going to these other legislative body meetings, does not apply when the city is itself the host of a meeting that's not agendized. So if you're having a community forum and it's hosted by Public Works on what streets do you think need to have improvement in our city? That is not an exception to the community meeting rule, and you cannot have a forum there at that meeting.
What is a quorum for us, exactly, the number?
How many are you? I'd be
Eight.
majority. Eight of you cannot be there.
So 7 can be total, fine.
Yes, as long as you do not discuss amongst yourselves the business of the NCIP. And I also recommend if you do end up in that situation, it's not a legal requirement, but in fairness, it helps explain if you don't all sit together. So maybe make a point if a majority of you end up at a meeting like that, like don't all congregate together, or it just gives more confidence in the system. Okay, so words for the wary, there's new social media policies. This is adopted a couple years ago, I believe in 8992. And it applies to commenting, retweeting, liking, disliking, responding with even emojis or thumbs up or whatever kind of a ghost picture or a witch, whatever, any of that stuff. You can't do that in certain situations. So, and that would be on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, blogs, TikTok, Reddit, Snapchat, and I'm sure there's a bunch more that I don't even know what they are or what they mean, but any sort of social media, if you're going to comment or not comment, we'll go to the next slide and then I'll tell you what that means. It's permitted for you all to communicate with the public on your social media platform on something that's important to you. And you might actually want to do this in your jobs, right? You might want to post like, as the NCIP representative for the downtown, I would like to know if you have an interest in sports center renovation or tennis courts, stuff, or the trash cans, or, you know, whatever your project is, you might want to get information from people in your, jurisdiction, and using social media is a completely legitimate way to do that. But what's not permitted is to respond. So we'll keep with downtown, analogy. So Mr. Tipton puts up on social media, he puts on Facebook, or Nextdoor, let me get your feedback, or I'll do a survey on what you think about project number CW24 or whatever. And then Ms. Whitney can't then like it with a thumbs up or a heart or an emoji or an actual comment. You're actually precluded from doing any of that. And so that's a newish rule under the Brown Act, limiting your ability to comment on each other's social media posts.
Regarding NCIP issues.
Yeah. Okay. So another important element of the Brown Act is the agenda. And an agenda for a regular meeting has to be posted 72 hours in advance. If it's a special meeting, like I believe your meeting tonight is special, it has to be 24 hours in advance in an accessible location. And that may seem cut and dry, and I've probably given you this example in the past when I've given this presentation, but we did have this come up when we had Bernie Sanders come to speak. And he was speaking right out front of the city council chambers, and we didn't realize that the Secret Service and all were going to come and block off public access to large areas of City Hall where we have our agendas posted. So we had to really sit and calculate. A couple of meetings had to get canceled because they were not able to be posted for the requisite time that the public could access it. And the city council meeting, we were able to go forward with that because there were still 72 hours available to the public to view the agenda, even though for a significant period of time, the public couldn't get there to see it. So we have to look at that. And most importantly, no action on items not on the agenda. And so I think for this board, because you're so large, it's pretty difficult to get a quorum of you together talking about something and violate the Brown Act when you're not in a meeting, right? It's more challenging for smaller boards. But for your board, I think it's going to be pretty hard to do off agenda. But what is easy for you to fall into the trap is to discuss things that are not on your printed agenda or take action on things that are not on your agenda. So I think for this group to pay particular attention to that. So agendas, each item of business is to be, transacted or discussed, must be generally described. The Brown Act uses like 20 words, they say, as like a rule of thumb. And the public must have the opportunity to address any item within the jurisdiction of the body. So here, the chair did open up to any member of the public, and you in fact received a public comment for items not on the agenda, and that's perfectly compliant with the law. Great job. You cannot prohibit criticisms of acts or policies or process. Now, this really came to a forefront, I would say, with Zoom bombing and hate speech and things like that. And it's maybe a little more complicated legal analysis, but hate speech is actually protected by the First Amendment, as offensive as it is. And criticism of each of you is fair game, even though it's uncomfortable, mean-spirited, and it can be, or sometimes you get compliments, right? So hey, we'll take those. So anyway, you can't shut someone off that's speaking here if you don't like what they're saying. And this is just an example of a recent case of this. So this was reported in the San Diego Union Tribune on October 14th of this year, where San Diego agreed to pay $15,000 to settle a lawsuit alleging free speech violations because the elected officials prohibited citizens from expressing their grievances during a public meeting that happened to be just before the November 2022 election. And now you may say 15 grand, that's small potatoes, what's the big deal? Or maybe not. I mean, it's money, but what the kicker is that's not in the headline here is the attorney's fees that go along with getting that type of settlement, which can easily run into the six figures. So sometimes it's difficult to be subjected to criticisms and difficult public comment. I get it. But the consequence is, liability to the city if, that rule isn't followed. So, attendance at meetings, all locations must be ADA accessible. So you can't hold a meeting where people can't get to it, whether it's in a, you need to make sure it's ADA accessible, like this facility here is accessible. The city council chambers is accessible. And, the city does a really good job, I think, of making sure that that happens. The public cannot be required to state your name or address. So when the public comes up to give a comment on an item on or off the agenda, you can't say, give me your name, please. You can ask for it, but you can't require them to say a response. You can be completely anonymous, say you're Jane Doe, and I don't want to give my address, and we can't compel that. Also, sometimes it might seem uncomfortable if people were to come in here and they start, they put an audio thing on the desk here and start recording and looking at, or snapping a bunch of pictures, or sometimes big press cameras might come into the room. We cannot stop anyone from recording the proceedings, audio or video. So that's legal as well. So violations and remedies, criminal penalties. I think in this county, there's only been one prosecution in like forever. So because I think really all of you serving in this capacity are trying your best to follow the rules, and you would need to have it be an intentional act to become a criminal violation. I also say that the Brown Act is the easiest out of all the laws we have to deal with in the city. This is the easiest one, and there's really no reason to violate it. So if there's a misstep somewhere along the line and you're like, oh my gosh, I think we just had a forum at this neighborhood meeting, we didn't realize it, and then we realized it after, and this was a mistake, just come let me know. And then you know what, we fix it by putting it on an agenda, and then you can just repeat the same discussion you just had. So it's all fixable until, if you ignore it and you get threatening letters, and you dig in your heels for some reason, which again, I feel like the Brown Act is so easy to comply with. Why do that? Just fix it if there's a problem. But if you don't fix it, there'd be civil penalties potentially. A private party can bring a cause of action for a violation of the Brown Act. A private party could seek to invalidate, let's say, your recommendations were done illegally or something to the city council. That vote could be sought to be invalidated in court. And if successful, there's attorney's fees and costs that could be awarded and injunctive relief awarded. And separately, the district attorney has the same capability as any private citizen to bring an action against the city for violation of the Brown Act. But again, there's really no reason for that to ever happen. So just come and give me a call if you're concerned about anything, and we'll help you out. So FPPC and conflicts of interest. Anyone getting a big red flag here? Red flag, red alert. This is not on the agenda. Right? Yes, you need to tell me to cut it. No, this is not on the agenda. Just the Brown Act is on the agenda. So this is where we're going to end with questions. That was just a trick slide there. Make sure you're all paying attention. Yeah, so I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have, or break some lights if you want to.
It's the best way of getting hold of you.
You can call. Do you want my
Good afterwards.
direct line is 646-1562, and my office front desk number to reach Elisa Salas, my secretary, is 646-3915, or you can email me anytime.
So if you're not a quorum, say only six people or so, what can and can't we discuss? Can we discuss anything, or can we limit it to certain things?
You can, the risk though, so let's say you have 6 of you and you all discuss something, is that all 6 of you, what if one of you accidentally slips and tells a 7th person something that you all said, then you're instantly in violation. So it's not a good idea to get that close of a call, so to speak, unless if you're all really, really vigilant about not talking to anyone else and sometimes that's beyond everyone's control, right? So I would say that's not an advisable practice. Yeah. But it's not technically illegal. It could easily result in a violation in the future. Yes.
If two committee members have a one-on-one conversation,
Mhm.
I guess the only risk or the thing to be worried about would be the conversation growing beyond those two to a quorum level.
Right. So if it grew to 8,
Okay,
then you would have a problem. Right.
but that's the only
Right,
concern.
and that's why with this board, because it's so big, I'm not trying to diminish the importance of the Brown Act and its application in that situation, but when you have, for example, the city council, and there's only 5 of you, it's a lot, you have to be so vigilant not to talk to any extra people, because it could be a problem. So, yeah, one person is fine. I'm hesitant when you start going up and up in numbers, because it just becomes too easy to have an accidental violation.
I know I had discussed this with you last year because the question came up when we were at the neighborhood presidents meeting. There are some members that wear 2 hats that are part of NCIP and the president of the neighborhoods. And it turned out there was only 4
Mhm.
people that wore the 2 hats, and it resolved it.
Okay.
This isn't a question, it's a comment. Just for all future, presentations, it would be nice if either at the beginning or the end of the presentation, whoever is doing the talk could have all of their contact information, their name, phone number, email, whatever. That's just a comment.
Thank you. I will do that in the future.
Our neighborhood has a bi-monthly breakfast. And the neighborhood people kind of attend, and we don't really have a meeting, but it's a neighborhood social,
Mhm.
so.
Sounds like fun.
No, it's nothing different than that,
Well, you're not gonna wanna have 7 other people from this board attend that breakfast. That would be a
No,
problem,
it's
but if
not
it's just
like-
your, yeah. Then you're good, that's not a problem. That's not a meeting under the Brown Act.
She's her social, but.
Yes,
Yes, and, everyone.
yeah, that's totally fine, and it sounds like fun. Any other questions? No, I guess we'll hear from the public, and I can get up and respond to that after too, so.
So we'll call for public comment. Is there anyone present? Want to raise their hand? Any online?
No,
We'll
nobody
close
else.
this public comment. Move on to, status report.
Yes, give me 1 second to pull up that presentation. Okay, and I make sure I'm sharing here. Okay, let me see here. Just want to. Yeah, thank you for bearing with me here. I just want to make sure I get the right. Because the last time we were doing this, when you do the slideshow, it actually gives you 2 different presentations. But so yes, okay. So for the NCIP, I want to just give a general presentation on what we've done over the last couple of months. Well, the last year, I guess. So we'll call this a year-in review of the NCIP program. So currently we have what I'm calling 52 prior year projects with a budget approximately $8.3 million. So prior year projects at this point would include anything up through 2024. So now we have, and we'll see later here, there's a bullet. We got on November 19th, City Council approved 31 projects or 28 projects, and we had approved 2 prior FY 25. So now we have 31 FY 25 projects with an approximate budget of 10.7 million for a total of 83 projects and a total budget of approximately $19 million. So we have, we're currently working roughly 30 projects in one form or another. Forest management is an ongoing project. Old Capitol site is still out there. It's still going. Neighborhood, security cameras, also the ALPRs, the police department through their contractor, they're in the process of completing installation of those around the city of Monterey. We've just installed a radar speed sign on Casanova Avenue last week. We're working on other projects, El Estero Park Center, that's going to come up in front of City Council next week for contract award. So we're doing those types of projects. What else do we have? We have a couple that are coming up in construction, probably at the start of the new year. A big one will be Casa Verde Rec Trail Crossing, kind of at the entry to Del Monte Beach. So you'll see that taken off. We're in design for another very big project, bike path. It's going to connect from across Mark Thomas all the way through the fairgrounds and up into North Fremont. Couple other big ones, San Burnaby Road design, which we're working right now. And another one that we just are trying to get off the ground, Oak Street block widening. And then we also have, we're in design for another rapid flashing beacon crosswalk at Webster and El Camino, El Estero. And then we've also looking at some curb extensions and other traffic calming projects along Mar Vista. And then we're also starting with Jocelyn Canyon radar speed sign. So we have quite a few projects that are in the works. And I think I didn't even include all of them. There's still some other lighting projects, lighting on along the fairgrounds property that's taking off. We have lighting in some improved lighting on Bruce Arias Way in New Cannery Row area. And we're also working on a sound barrier along Highway 1 on John Street in that Villa Del Monte neighborhood. So there's a lot going on. And there's probably more, but that's kind of the big ones. Kind of the success story of this past 12 months, 13 months. We've completed 17 projects, which I've talked about kind of along the way over the past year, but Prescott Avenue sidewalks, some upgrades at the Sports Center, library, street light, which you could see when you leave here. Hartnell Street, Webster Street, our rapid flashing beacon, Del Monte Beach boardwalk repair, a number of other projects here. And then I have, if a picture's worth 1,000 words, right, as they say, I'll try and go through some of the photos. So this is some work we did at the Sports Center recently. And towards the end of 2023, we finished painting, and then we recently installed some larger bike racks for larger bikes with larger wheels. Those old style racks just weren't functional. And that was through funds by NCIP project. Then another project we recently completed was upgrades at Veterans Park West parking lot which you'll see on the left-hand side, and that sidewalk is on the right-hand side. That was one of the first projects along Prescott that I talked about. We also completed some upgrades to this is the tot lot in Del Monte Beach. So new turf was installed earlier this year, and we're going to install a canopy at this park as well in the next couple of weeks. Then here you'll see a brand new fence that was installed in Casanova Oak Knoll Park. That was a NCIP project. This is, I think it made the park look a lot better, especially along the road there. And we're also installing a canopy here at their picnic area in the park. That'll be installed at the same time as the one in Del Monte Beach. Then some other improvements that have happened this year included, here you can see some new railing along the rec trail that was done off of that window on the Bay Park area. A new water in the center on the right-hand side, water fountain on Cannery Row at the rec trail. You'll also see some more Del Monte Beach boardwalk and repair, rapid flashing beacon that was at Webster and El Camino. Then we have here a couple different lighting projects that we've done. The library parking lot, which is right outside here, lights at Laguna Grande Park, and then a light that we activated that had been installed previously but had not been activated, so that got completed. And this is on the backside of the high school up the hill from here. And then last but not least, like I said, we've just recently installed the radar speed sign on Casanova Avenue. So those are the projects that we're working on, and that completes my presentation.
So open for questions amongst the committee members.
And only clarifying questions at this time. Discussion for the committee will come after public comment. So only clarifying questions at this time.
Just if you could tell us briefly, what's the one at Colton Hall, I'm wondering?
So Colton Hall has a project to repoint. So every so often when you have like a masonry building, so the mortar that's between the stones has to be periodically removed and reinstalled in order to allow for, you know, that I guess to keep the connection between, because otherwise you can remove the stones there. You can just pull them out with your hand, or sometimes they fall out. So you need to refresh the mortar. So that's one of the projects that NCIP funded several years ago. But there's some complications to getting that project completed.
Also had in there, harvest the traffic calming plan being revised, but that was from my understanding, revised only for Mar Vista Drive to have the Mar Vista redesign part of the update traffic calming for it.
Right, and that was completed.
That was completed, but it was only that particular
Section,
section of street, not the others.
yes.
I'll go ahead and open it for public comment. If anyone has any comment. Is this is a brief time since they were on the agenda? So this is just specifically to this presentation. We have one person here and then anyone online. So we'll do 2 minutes.
So number 6, recreation trail permeable pavers. I forget what you said the status of that.
I didn't. We're in design. So we have it's contracted right now with a consultant, and they are working on design of the pavers with a couple different options for, I guess we'll call it a substrate material to hold them in place. Not at this time.
comments from NCIP committee members?
Hi, I'm Jill from Del Monte, via Del Monte. Where, do you have like a list of projects that were voted on and approved that you haven't started working on?
I don't have it in this presentation, but it is available as a, I guess we'll call it, it's bundled on so if we go to the city website, let me see if I can pull it up real quick just to show, since we don't always have this opportunity. So if you go to here, let me share this screen. Sorry, share. That's not up there for some reason. That's interesting. If you go, okay, so I'm sorry for whatever reason it's not coming up here, but if we go to the city website, and then you go to the NCIP webpage, if you haven't been there, you will be able to go to NCIP. I wish I could show it here. Go to NCIP, and so under, there's several different ways to get there, but let's just say we go through public works, and then engineering, neighborhood community improvement program, and then there's an active projects report that we try and put together. It's weird that that's not coming off. You can see it there, but it's online, but it's not on the screen. So there, and in here you can see status. So one of the boxes is status. So you'll see things like access agreement. So you can see that on construction. So if you go through here, you can see things, and then you'll be able to see where everything is and kind of its current status. So you can go through there, and then like I've said before, if anyone has any questions on the status of a project, I'm always available for an email or phone call. So it has all the projects, right. So that list on the NCIP website has all projects, and
since we discussed it, we can have it in the minutes. We can have the website link in the minutes.
and that'll be available. Yes. So let me see, maybe I can pull it up now since I was able to, for everybody's benefit. I'm sorry,
It's updated.
I try and update it on the first Friday of the month. So, so you should be able to find that. Let me try one last time. If it doesn't work this time, I'll give up. But you should be able to, yeah, the first Friday. Okay, here it is. So the first Friday, so I'll back out. So for everyone that can see, so if you go, there's different ways to get here, but so if you go to the City of Monterey website, one way you can go through Public Works, click Public Works, and then you can navigate. So one way is on the left-hand side here. You can click on Engineering. You can click on Neighborhood and Community Improvement Program. And between Parker and myself, we're really trying to keep these links updated and active. So you'll see lots of different pieces of information that could be of interest to different people for different reasons. So for example, we've posted all of the recent city council resolutions for the various years, NCIP fiscal years. So we have 2022, 23, 23, 24. We just recent 24, 25, plus then some of the individual resolutions, like for the forest management and fuel reduction program, the ALPR equipment. So some of these that have been approved under separate action, those are also on here. We have a list of completed projects, a list of active projects. So there's quite a bit of information available to the public on this webpage. And we're trying to keep it active. So again, if you see anything or have any questions, feel free to, my contact information is also on the website. So you can send me an email or call me.
Thank you.
NCIP informational reports. I do not have any reports. So we can move on to public events items. The first one will be reviewing the NCIP projects that were returned to the NCIP committee for consideration by the city council. And I'll hand it off to Reggie and Andrea.
Okay, so, all right, give me 1 second so I can make sure I'm sharing the proper screen for the online attendees. So we had, there were 6 projects that were returned by City Council to the NCIP committee for consideration. The first of those 6 was this new Monterey, and going in order of voting, where they were placed in the vote. The first one was the new Monterey 04, new Monterey neighborhood plan update. Then the next one is Villa Del Monte 01, which is Casa Verde Way underpass. And then the next one is Villa Del Monte 03. Well, okay, so those were the 2 that were above the cutoff line. The next 4 were under the cutoff, and council did not approve any cutoff projects. So all 4 cutoff projects were also returned to the committee for your consideration, which included the radar speed sign in Villa Del Monte, the comprehensive fire safety analysis and hazard reduction program, which, well, and one of the main fundamental reasons why that was returned was because the city of Monterey has, along with Carmel by the Sea and Pacific Grove, recently completed a community wildfire protection plan in November of 2023. The other one was the NCIP property purchase fund. And finally were the 2 recreation trail bike repair stations. So I think the guidance from council, mainly, I would say with the first 2 that were above the cutoff, were starting with the new Monterey neighborhood plan, was to focus on actionable projects in the new Monterey area. And if that was what was brought back to council, based on guidance from both the community development director and I think city attorney, those would be projects that could be worked on under NCIP, and that would be, what's the word I'm looking for? An appropriate project. And then the Villa Del Monte 01 underpass murals. This was returned to committee due to some of the complications along with Caltrans and other, just maintenance, upkeep, and various and those types of concerns. So this was, if there was something that was another option that could be presented, that was one consideration. And then the other projects, like I said, we did not, council did not approve any of the cutoff projects. So you have an opportunity to look at those if you wanted to, take a second look at those, and then also could come up with a different or modified scope. So that's the staff presentation.
Questions from NCIP committee members?
Again, only clarifying questions. Discussion for the NCIP committee will come after public comment.
To clarify, the council actually said some things, or staff said some things that like the bike repair station. You don't go through why that, what was said during the meeting?
Well, yeah, I can provide. So there was concern with both location of the bike repair stations and maintenance and upkeep, big things like theft, vandalism. Council did bring up issues like, well, where, if we had a better idea where they were placed, would they be placed near like maybe city facilities where, maybe they would have someone could keep an eye on them more readily. So I think that from what I heard, one of the concerns or items that was brought up multiple times was location. So I guess maybe if the locations were better defined, for example, I think that would make this project a stronger project. And then if we could identify maybe the type of equipment that would be on these stations, maybe, and we could identify, so those types of things is what I heard. Specifically, I did not hear any discussion on the opportunity, the property purchase fund. And I also did not hear any strong conversation on the radar speed sign in Villa Del Monte. I just think that those projects were just part of that cutoff group.
There was discussion on neighborhood plans and how those are changing. That might be what you keep for the-
So there,
Things about that.
so there was conversation about changing in neighborhood area plans based on state law, and that there are certain things like that cannot be, I guess the city doesn't have any jurisdiction over. So neighborhoods, like you can't have certain maybe aesthetic requirements that we've had in the past. Those are going to be removed from the plans, or plans are going to be, I guess, what we're going to not use them anymore is what I heard.
Yeah, so I think, and again, she's the expert on the matter. So I think what we're doing is also, we require, in order for NCIP to fund a plan, that there are projects that come out of the plan. And so I think this would warrant maybe a discussion with community development on how can this project be rescoped to something that has projects for NCIP to fund. And that is in line with all the current mandates.
So what makes the fire safety analysis project that's listed here different from the citywide?
So if I can answer this one. So I did have a conversation with the fire chief today. And so when staff did their recommendation, we felt that the plan was duplicative of efforts that have already been in place. So one of the things that NCIP representative and can work with the project, the person who nominated the project, is maybe rescope the project to fund some of the items that have already been identified in the action plan. So the action plan for the community wildfire protection plan has projects that have been identified. Granted, it's for Carmel, Monterey, Pacific Grove, but the nominating person can pick projects out of that action plan. So instead of funding a duplicative effort, now you can fund part of the action plan. So that was the thought behind that.
As a clarifying, the person who submitted the program still owns a house here, but moved to Idaho. So I did talk with him. I think he's satisfied with the wildfire plan. So he had his intention, I think, was more to figure out to be more aggressive with fire prevention within our community and figure out a plan more what to do in Monterey. Also, we're pretty good along with that.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Tammy?
With regards to the the Villa Del Monte project of the underpass, whatever you call it. What are the next steps? This was sent back from the city because of problems, but what do we do now? I mean, it has been approved. It was approved. What are the next steps in order to get this going?
That's a discussion for.
Tammy, that will be better addressed during discussions. Can we circle back to you?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear any of that.
We're saying it's a better served as a discussion item, so we'll come back after public comment and
Okay,
discuss that.
thank you.
The opportunity property purchasing, was that specific to the Casanova Avenue location? Or was it more general?
So this was general. So from what I understand, prior to 2020, there was a fund that had some balance in it that was available for purchase of property. When council, closed out projects and took those funds for general use, for the city, that was added to a list of the projects that were brought back, year over year, for the last 3 years. So, to reinstate it, so to speak. So this was, that's what that project or fund was.
Just to clarify, the underpass mural would
Yes.
involve having to work or get town council or any project that's done on an underpass or part of the framework.
Would you mind repeating the question? I think it was hard to hear.
I just wanted to clarify that any kind of project, in this case, it would be the underpass mural, that any project that has to deal with any portion of a freeway or anything like that would require Caltrans approval, is that correct? And that's part of the issue that council had?
Right, so correct me if I'm wrong, but the property is managed by Caltrans. So it's not just the actual structure, but there's the land on both sides and in between the jurisdiction. So it's broader than, say, just the actual concrete structure or structures. It's also there's a strip of land in between and on both sides, all the way up to and past the on and off ramps. So it's quite a bit of property.
Well, and if I might add, anything that we do with Caltrans goes under what they call, it's an encroachment permit. So Caltrans remains the decision maker. So if they decide that they want to retrofit the bridge, they can do so. So the mural is up to what they want to do. So if they need to retrofit the bridge, the mural can be gone when they decide to.
So
We don't have control over what they decide.
On the opportunity buying fund issue, I think what we had in past years, the idea behind it is there's areas of the neighborhood that don't have like play areas for kids that are very conveniently, some neighborhoods have none at all. And when property does come up for sale or so forth, it is very difficult for the city
Sorry,
to,
so I feel like this is more discussion.
okay,
So,
okay.
thank you. Any other clarifying questions? So we'll close questions from the committee members. And we'll open up for public comment. Is there anyone present who wants to meet? There are 3 people, 3 hands here. Anyone online?
No.
Okay. So we'll do 3 minutes each, and if you guys want to come up and make your comment.
Just a quick technical matter, you might want to close the door if this thing's hypersensitive to the noise.
Yeah.
I'd like to speak to the new Monterey neighborhood plan. It's been said of the housing portion of the neighborhood plan, and I think there was frankly a little too much hyper focus on that. That's one of 10 elements in the neighborhood plan. So we had a meeting today, myself, Shineri, and Bob Evans, and talked with Levi Hill, and it was, for me, it was very informative. My idea was going into that meeting, why not just take a Sharpie pen and just basically, you know, okay, fine, we'll go through the table of contents, we can line out the housing element, because that's part of the city's housing element. And what came of that meeting though was that I was educated that actually the way that at least the planning staff wants to have these things evolved is to have elements, planning elements. Let's take a parks master plan as an example, that then can talk about the specific neighborhood. So it might have a section in it about New Monterey and what New Monterey's preferences are, or Villa Domani, or whatever the neighborhood is. It will have specialized sections in it. Even in the housing element, he said, there can be, they need to develop objective standards for housing. That's true, but that doesn't say that you couldn't have objective standards that are somewhat different in New Monterey from downtown. And so he said they haven't gone to that step yet, but they will be going to that step. So to me, that makes a lot of sense. Why hide a bunch of acorns throughout various neighborhood plans rather than consolidate them within the specific plans that then have specialized elements in them for each of the neighborhoods? That to me, as a former staff person, makes a heck of a lot more sense to, you know, to try to find the source document for that. So I, as the applicant for this, will withdraw the application so that it doesn't get funded. That doesn't mean the need goes away though. And as a matter of fact, there's a lot of work to be done. And a 33-year-old neighborhood plan really isn't very functional. And Andrea may or may not know this, but we'll probably be having some meetings in the next year to talk about, maybe there needs to be a street master plan that then differentiates between Upper New Monterey, Lower New Monterey, Del Monte Beach, Villa Del Monte, downtown, all these various neighborhoods and even subparts of neighborhoods, so that what we have in our neighborhood plan can then be contained in the specific plan for that subject matter. Yes, Barbara. Oh, you count down. Thank you.
That's fine. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Michaela, for short, awesome. I'm the outgoing president of the Villa Del Monte Neighborhood Association, and I'm also the proponent behind BBM01, which is actually the second phase of this project. The first phase has already been approved by NCIP and funded by the city in September 2022, although I just recently learned that city staff has been directed to hold on that aspect of the project. Phase 1 is for hardscaping, and it does entail getting encroachment permit with Caltrans. And so what's before you tonight is the second phase, which is the proposed art permits. I want to point out this project, I modeled it after, and it is consistent with the Villa Del Monte Neighborhood Revitalization Plan that was adopted by the city in 2016. That was a result of a very grassroots democratic process instituted by the city, where neighbors had many meetings with the design group of the city, hired RRM, Addison Bispo, to put together a plan to beautify and give our neighborhood identity. Our neighborhood was bisected by Highway 1 in the 1960s. So that's one of the visions and goals of the plan, is to create a cohesive neighborhood feel. So beautification of this underpass would give that cohesive feel, connecting the two sides of our neighborhood. Another goal and vision of that plan is to showcase neighborhood identity. It says a strong neighborhood identity is desired by the community, specifically with historic ties to the Del Monte Hotel and that property, which is now NPS. It borders our neighborhood. So
the art and vision for these murals would do that. One possibility is depicting the historic Del Monte Hotel and the historic train that used to service it. Furthermore, the Villa Del Monte Neighborhood Revitalization Plan specifically provides for artwork in public right of ways and includes murals, mosaics, and tiles and paving. So this is all in that plan, and you can find it on the city's website. In order to overcome some of the criticisms, I mean, of course, it does entail Caltrans approval. What you saw on that picture that Reggie had up, the murals do not have to be on.
Sorry.
Oh. Oh, there was no warning. I didn't know.
I was just gonna provide clarification from the conversation that was held on the council, and I was gonna start with the new Monterey neighborhood plan, but I guess I can nix that one since it seems the applicant wants to pull that back. The second one was the bike repair station. And I would just offer from the sense that I had from the dialogue at the council meeting, it's more of just whatever you all want to decide to do, and I would offer maybe a little bit of an alternative thought, which is maybe just leaving it open. If you want to push it forward, leave it open so that staff can maybe work to find out where those stations go and maybe not go too granular. And then the last thing is the mural underpass. Part of the conversation on the council on that one too was maybe leaving it open to not having it there. Staff have a lot of concerns in regards to the challenges associated with working with Caltrans. I mean, I personally can be supportive of it going if NCIP committee decides to continue the project where it's at, but I just wanted to offer that as well, that was part of the discussion was if it's not there, then maybe you all can get another location. Thank you.
So we will go ahead and close public comment and we'll open comments for NCAP members.
By neighborhood would be
By
best.
neighborhood? Okay, so we'll go by neighborhood. We'll start off with Ugly Oaks.
Yes, just to clarify, these are just comments on the projects that we just discussed.
Yes.
It's like the one thing I do want to acknowledge the woman that came up and spoke to the value of the mural under the overpass. Like I personally think it seems that would be a valuable project that has had a lot of thought in moving forward. I know you can acknowledge a lot of the challenges associated with taking responsibility for maintenance and being subject to uncertainty as it relates to the longevity of that project. However, having driven around California, there are lots of examples of where communities do have murals under overpasses. Then maybe if it would be helpful trying to find a model that would be more comfortable for the city staff or the council to build from, could be something that we'd be able to contribute as a way to move it forward. I'm not sure how, it's like the one thing that kind of tangentially related to this, acknowledging that there is concern from the staff is, acknowledge it, but the better understanding kind of like the process and the thoughts that go into some of those concerns would be helpful as we not just reframe or refocus projects like this, but then heading into the next NCIP cycle, understanding how to mold projects that are more palatable and appropriate, I guess, as you were describing them for future funding.
Alta Mesa,
I have no comments. I yield my time.
Casanova Oaknall.
I was at the council meeting where these projects were discussed. I was also at the Parks and Rec Committee meeting where the bike repair stations were also discussed. And there were some valid points that were brought up by the Parks Department regarding the bike repair stations. I actually saw Shannon today from Parks, and I asked her if we even had any of those kind of stations in Monterey. She said no, but in other jurisdictions, there's been a lot of theft of the actual equipment in there. And they were concerned about having to constantly replace that, which might be where the location comes into effect. If they're closer to city buildings or, you know, places where there might be more traffic and the theft will be less reduced. I also don't know a lot about them, so I don't know if there's other kinds of bike repair stations that might be more theft proof. I'm not sure, but I do know that's where that concern came from. And the underpass mural, it would be nice to have public art, and the feeling I got from council from the meeting was that they would also like the public art. It was just the Caltrans thing seemed to be an issue, and I don't know if there's any kind of grants or programs that Caltrans has that might encourage or make it easier to get something like that done. It might be worth exploring. Staff may know about that more than I do, but if there's some kind of program, because I did just a quick search and there is some kind of California beautification or something like that for art projects. So, other than that, and I do agree with the comment about the what the planning department wants to do for the neighborhood plan updates. Also, as a former staff member, just makes more sense to have it in one location or several locations, but in a more, not just in one specific plan update, but in a more citywide kind of thing. And they're similar to zoning requirements for the different zones, so why not put in different zones? And that's the link.
Dear thoughts?
Just quickly, I wanted to support the mural idea and also second Adam's comment of if there's more to be learned as a committee and as a engineering staff or as a city staff on the process. I just don't want to, never liked in my career, and I'm not saying this is the case, but like, if something's hard, that's not an excuse not to do it. Just learn, use it as a good exercise to educate and to inform upon future projects.
Del Monte Beach. Okay, Del Monte Grove within a Grande.
Yeah, building on what AJ and Scott were saying, the other Scott, that so much work has been done on that Casa Verde underpass. As I recall, initially there was a drainage component of it too, that we really haven't discussed much. I don't know if that's been done, but it is an eyesore, and if anything can be done, I think that's really what the goal should be.
Downtown.
So based on what we heard tonight, looks like there's $450,000 that are gonna go back into the budget. You know what projects might be coming up?
So as I said, right now, council did not approve any of the cutoff projects for 2025. We still, in theory, at least, we have projects prior year, what do you call them? Sorry, cutoff projects. So if we could take a look at those and we could propose one or more,
Okay.
right, we could propose one or more cutoff projects.
So then on the bike repair station, I think we should still go ahead and fund it. The Park and Recs department should realize if they start experiencing a lot of theft, I don't see why NCIP can't fund that capital equipment that keeps getting stolen. So I don't know that it's gonna come out of the parks budget. They'll just have to put in another application, but we need to, I think we should go ahead with that. I also think we should go ahead with the middle. And then I would really like us to see putting money back into the opportunity fund to purchase the property. Absolutely.
Fisherman Bluffs.
I support the mural and the bike stations also. I think that's
Glenwood.
Sounds like some of these projects need to go back to the drawing board and get fine tuned. For an example, on the radar signs, there's no location as far as any of the paperwork that was turned into us. If these are gonna be brought forward, we need specific locations. Same thing with the bike repair stations. We need the locations of specific. or we're gonna get over radar signed, and those things are expensive. One thing we need to remember here is NCIP does not do maintenance. And for an example, if the mural gets, what do you call it when those, you know, when they
Installed.
tag it, do those things, okay. That's gonna stay. Caltrans is not gonna fix it. NCIP, the city of Monterey is not gonna fix it. It's gonna stay that way.
I'll fix it.
In there. Well, unfortunately, you would have to go through city and the liability and Caltrans, you know, to do that kind of a thing. As far as buying the property, there is a state moratorium, with Cal-Am not even putting any meters in, so there would be no water. And that's kind of holding up a lot of projects. And I know we need the affordable housing, but I think that's held up in there. I think these things just need to go back. There's a lot of good ideas. But when you put these projects forward, you really need to specifically put down and read what you want and define. It takes a lot of work off of Parker and his gang to kind of figure out what we wanted or what the person wanted. But I think if they're gonna be do they have to be resubmitted? Reggie?
I think that's kind of an open question. What I heard was that there's an opportunity to redefine, better define, or leave them as they are, and then we can take them back to city council for future consideration. That would be something that this committee would need to decide what they would like to do, what the committee would like to do. And then staff would put that forward as an agenda item for council.
Or go back to the applicant they may want to resubmit it with more information, i.e. locations, et cetera.
So that, right? So I think either way, staff would, yes, the committee would need to make a decision.
Thank you.
Sure. Can I add something? Okay, thank you. So, on taking notes during the city council meeting, so we stopped at, project 35, which was the pickleball course at Monterey Tennis Center. And then Ville Del Monte radar speed sign, the fire safety, the opportunity property purchasing, and the 2 bike repair stations were council requested they were brought back for consideration of NCIP. So that could include rescoping. If we rescope it, we would take it back to council, recommending the projects for funding. So city council can fund the projects. So I think that a lot of this is open for discussion. And if I may just add a couple of items just for clarity on some of the comments. So I completely agree that having something be hard, it's no excuse not to do it. I mean, I think in the city, we've had history of doing things that were tough. However, I do want to caution that if there is something, and maybe not necessarily the mural itself, but another project that may have some challenges. Right now, we're still at 50% staffing. So we don't have the ramping up as Tom Reeves might remember the good times where we just had many, many engineers working on NCIP projects. We don't have that right now. So there are opportunity costs that come with a challenging project, which is less projects get done because we're spending a lot of staff and time on a project. So it is not that it's hard to do. We won't do it. We will do it, but just understand maybe not 17 projects get done that this year. Maybe a less number of projects. I think Caltrans in general is more agreeable to paint instead of something that's tile. So maybe that's something that we can look at. Again, the concern is that, you know, if somebody tags it and somebody from Caltrans is going by, they can just paint the whole thing gray. We don't have control over the art is something that makes us as staff a little concerned because we want things to look nice in Monterey. And I think on the replacement and maintenance, so again, I know that we've had this discussion many times and as the Glenwood representative said, NCIP does not pay for maintenance. So if something breaks, the city has to pay for it. NCIP does pay for a lot of projects that were large one-time repair projects. So when I talk about maintenance, and we had a discussion that NCIP has paid for huge repair projects, absolutely. There's some amazing projects NCIP paid for. But it's the day-to-day, month-to-month maintenance is what NCIP does not pay for. So these are just clarifying comments. Thank you.
Monterey Vista?
I think the projects we should really discuss tonight are the projects that are in the funded cycles. I think the cutoff projects are, since they don't really get done until all the other projects get done are, and since we have so many projects ahead of us, I think it's a little bit hard to, it's not as efficient to talk about the cutoff projects. We can definitely talk about them, but they're less critical. I think what's critical for us tonight are the first two projects that the city council wants back from us. And so in regards to those two projects, I think the idea that was brought forward of redoing neighborhood projects as part of the city is probably a good one, and that'll get revised. And I think we should all think about for our own neighborhoods, how that might, how we might have input into that. I know not all neighborhoods have neighborhood design plans, and we don't, for example, we talked a lot about it, whether to have one or not, but we never did have one. But I know other neighborhoods have one, and they can be quite valuable. So that would be something we, I think, need to discuss. Neighborhoods should discuss within themselves, whether they want to have one, what's important to them, and define that. Regarding the underpass, I think that was, it's been in the works for a really long time. And I think there is a real neighborhood demand for it. How to go about doing it is, I think it's good for us to understand what the difficulties are and really thinking about that. And I think the proponents of it might get together again and talk about it, what they've learned, talk about it with the city. And I think if relatively quickly they come together and talk with the city and see what can be viable, I think maybe at the next underground meeting, we can move something forward that the city council can approve or not approve. But I think it might be really good for a subgroup like the submitters and to get together and refocus that project and see what can be done to make it efficient and make it doable within reasonable amount of time and effort and so forth. But yeah, understanding kind of the issues from both sides. So that's what I would say.
And you on, right? This one.
Oh,
So,
I guess the one thing I could add was about the opportunity, give a little history about the opportunity line that I was going to do earlier. And that was just so for the new people to know there are several neighborhoods that either don't have tot lots or playgrounds or areas of some areas where there are a lot of kids where there aren't really playgrounds. And historically, the idea was that if we have some money set aside for an opportunity buying fund, when lots come up for sale that could be good, either tot lots or small playgrounds or something, that rather than having an investor come up and swoop up the property, that we have a chance at buying it without having to wait for a long time to get money together and be able to buy it, but which time be long gone, that we quickly ask and buy up a property. That's why we had this, we wanted to have a fund available to be able to buy a lot and for a public area. So that was the idea behind this this fund, and it's been I think historically, isn't that how we bought the one in Del Monte Beach? Is that how we got that lot? That's how I think it's also how we got the, center of the capacity. Okay. It got expanded by having the opportunity to find, you know, house next door to make the property located. Yeah, okay. But so that was historically, so I think that's something that is, you know, might not get funded here, but it's something we can think about and put money into it, like, kind of like we do for the, access, you know, for cost overruns and things like that. So, just to give a little history.
Right, so, as it relates to the underpass Mills project, just again pointing out that this is the second phase. Phase one had already been approved and funds appropriated for that. Part of phase one included, some issues related to safety, so included, improving drainage, improving lighting, hardscaping as well. So this would be kind of funding the art piece. I kind of see both of them going together, so it doesn't really make sense to approve phase one, but then not to approve phase two. Especially if we do want to explore ways to move forward to actually get the project done. I also think that there's a lot of opportunity for partnerships with this project. So it's, you know, near the fairgrounds, we can maybe look into getting some additional partners who also may help with funding, and really opportunities to kind of showcase the neighborhood and also showcase Monterey and Monterey history. So I think there's a lot of potential for this project. And in terms of some of the challenges, I think at the very least it's worth having a discussion specifically about challenges and more in a way of identifying how to address those challenges. So not just simply saying that there's challenges, but looking at ways that we can move forward with this without necessarily taxing staff time. And so I think that warrants another discussion. So I'd really be in favor of the underpass mural. And I understand that it is challenging to work with Caltrans, and this may very well be a project that won't get done like within a year. It might be kind of more of a longer term project. But I do, looking at the site, it feels worth it. And I was just there this past weekend. And, you know, part of the sidewalk is included, overgrown vegetation. There's really no place to walk, so the walking underneath. So it's an area that does need attention. And I think we can look at it more as partnering with a number of different potential agencies as well as Caltrans. With the radar speed sign, I would agree. I feel like we do get a lot of radar speed sign projects. I'm not sure this one sounds like it didn't have a location in the original submission. So I think that may be worth revisiting if that is something that's really needed at this time. And then also making sure that, I know at times there are property owners that don't want things in front of their house. So it just, again, clarifying whether or not everybody that lives on that street is in agreement with having that there. So I think we just need more information about that project. I would agree with the fire safety and rescoping that to fund items that have already been identified. And maybe we can get clarity from staff on how to go about that since it's the submitter moved. But I think that's a great way to reinforce what's already been done and what has already been identified as a need in the community. And also agree with the opportunity of property purchasing. I do want to remind everyone that we did actually have a project that was submitted last cycle related to buying property. And I think they ended up taking back the project, but you know, I think there are opportunities that come up, and like you said, it would be nice to be able to act on that quickly versus having a private investor purchase the property and not and you know build something that may not be able to help with lower income housing. And then lastly, bike repair station. it was noted that we can instruct staff to identify a location, so that can be part of what we direct staff to do in terms of our deliberation. And then the other thing I was thinking, I do agree that having the tools there, it is, there is a risk of things getting stolen. So I was wondering the option of maybe just getting a repair station that has the structures that people can lift their bikes on top and then use their own tools. So maybe looking for stations that are more the structure and not necessarily having the tools there, and you don't have to worry about having to replace tools and we can't fund maintenance. So those are just some ideas. Great, Oak Grove. Old Town.
Pretty much agree with Hans, the opportunity buying was especially important. We've seen a couple of pieces of property that we missed out on, and coming from a neighborhood that really doesn't. Very important to us. The underground or the underpass mural, we had a lot of discussion on that. I'd like to see what I understand the Caltrans. I've heard of the Caltrans history and getting that, but I would really like to see that go forward. And it's about it.
So one of the things I think we're gonna have to do eventually is financial Tetris. Because we had some projects that weren't approved, like, Ryan Ranch. Where does that fit in terms of scope of money? But financial Tetris will happen after we get some recommendations. I think one of the things we heard from city staff is they don't have a lot of staff to be able to play with these things. I think we can help by doing the homework, like if we can find places where Caltrans has done something like wants to be done on these free passes. And then we can go back to Caltrans and say, you did it here, you did it here, you did it here, you did it here, give us approval for here. Because I know driving in Washington, Oregon, and California, I have seen other places where that's been done. Some of that in California, so Caltrans, you've done it before. So if we can help them get through the process. But realize that they have the right of way of the property and they can change it at any time. So it's like, okay, how do we get that easement, if you will, so we can have that? I think Tom said on the first one on the 200,000, yeah, I could just note that to be more of a global plan. I think that would be great to come back with that. With at least go such that we can hand it back to city council and say, this is now fitting in with requirements in California. The radar speed signs, I agree, it's a matter of location. We have them, does it. Adding to the wildfire protection plan, I actually was the one that planted the seed that ended up giving that to happen. So having more money going towards that, great. That's also a great way, that plan was a great way to get money from CAL FIRE, which we got for forestry. Because if you have a plan, then you can go ask for money. If you don't have a plan and you ask for money, they come look at you. Okay, get a clue, and we'll show them what you plan. The opportunity buying fund, absolutely, I think is important because where can you buy those top lots? So you can have a place for the kids to play. The bike stations are kind of like Shaneri's idea of having to place where you stick the bikes and you pull the tires off and without pools. Because I know I was cycling, it was like 7,500 miles for 2 years. I carried all my tools in the backpack under the seat. But you never know when you're going to get a lot longer. Oh, well, I want to throw one more thing. Previous NCIP member, Richard Masello, had a long uphill fight with the city getting the emergency operations center approved as an MP project. I think it's a valuable asset for the city because I know we use it all the time in certain police department. So sometimes those uphill battles are worth it. Sometimes they actually prove out.
not one necessarily have the city before, even if you're very useful for the city. So. Might be up there about.
Bill Delmonte.
Hi, everybody. I am so thankful for the opportunity to be here with you guys and learn from you. And I absolutely agree with the recent comments about the bike repair station. I carry everything on my bike and about size of a softball that I need: compressive air, tools, to fix the chain. You know, so I'm not really sure why that would be something that the city should fund. You know, it is nice to have a place to hang your bike, but there's a lot of places you can figure out to do it without having an actual permanent station too. Fence. You know, there's a lot of places. Okay, so that was just my opinion on that one. I feel bad that I kind of came late to the table on that because I know that a lot of people put a lot of work into that. I live about a half a block from the underpass, the famous underpass, and it's pretty pathetic. Not only is it incredibly dangerous at night. My son works at the bowling alley. I'm worried about him walking back and forth. The lighting's not good. It's dangerous for bicycles, and we're getting a lot more bike traffic on Casa Verde, which I think is a good thing. And it's a main artery, whether it's going to be designated as such or not. It is a main artery. It's the most convenient way to get from the Fremont area to the rec trail and to downtown. And so I think anything that happens in the underpass should have some kind of component for cyclists. As well as I get on and off that freeway several times a day from Casa Verde, both directions. And it's not very safe for pedestrians walking across. People looking, trying to merge, trying to get over, trying to get back on the highway. So many close calls that I've witnessed myself, people getting hit, almost getting hit, including our, fairground vacationers. That's the gateway to our fairgrounds, which really hold world-class events. And that's how many people, come under that Jazz Fest? They all park in my neighborhood, so I know about it. And, it's kind of like midnight, they're coming back, maybe had a cocktail after the last band, and it's scary because I've done it. So I really hope that, maybe it needs to be taken to a higher level in terms of, integrating all these other issues, and maybe with better, safety for pedestrians and cyclists and things like that. Maybe there's a source of state funding for that. I don't even know. I'm kind of new to this stuff, so I just don't want to throw stuff out here that you guys have already talked about. But anyway, that's about it. Thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Yes, and you can begin making motions.
So maybe the easiest way to do is if you like kind of go one by one with projects and open up for new things. It does sound like the new Monterey neighborhood plan stage was withdrawn. I don't think we need to.
You want to require them for
Make that a motion, please. If you could please make that a motion to discuss.
Is that within the?
So
We need to stay within the scope of the original project.
So we just need to set up.
Motion to discuss that.
Correct, yes, and a second for that motion. So if you can just restate your motion.
So I move that we. Ask Tom to redraft his budget.
So I think it's just a discussion.
So I'm sorry, I can see the person who did nominate the project wants to withdraw it. So I think it's just off the table. Maybe in this next cycle, it can be proposed in a different way.
So that project officially is off. So next, topic would be the underpass. Is there a motion?
Move we approve it the way it is.
A second? Motion fails. Is there another motion?
Can there be a motion to like have a study group or to further investigate options?
Motion.
That would be sending it back to the original.
To
submitter,
the,
correct?
yeah,
Okay, that's what I motion.
Okay, so motion to. All right, so I guess we call for a vote.
Yes. Albrita Oaks.
Aye.
Alta Mesa.
Aye.
Casanova Oak Knoll.
Aye.
Deer Flats.
Aye.
Del Monte Grove Laguna Grande.
Aye.
Downtown.
Aye.
Fisherman's Flats. Glenwood.
Aye.
Monterey Vista. New Monterey. Oak Grove.
Aye.
Old Town.
Aye.
Skyline.
Yes, please.
And Villa de Monte.
Aye.
Motion approves.
So just for clarification, what does that mean?
thank you. I was gonna ask, do you want staff to work with the project proposer in looking at the scope and then bring it back once we have more information?
And then we can send it back to city council, right?
Yes, then you can approve the new scope and recommend it for city council to fund.
Thank you.
Does it need to be within the old scope? Is that in the original scope? Does it need to be within the old scope, or can we shift the scope a little bit? I don't know, that's
We'll bring it back to NCIP for consideration. So I don't think it's gonna change too much. And I also forgot to mention during my comments, I'm sorry, staff has looked at grants. There is a Clean California grant that we haven't been able to be competitive that would have fund those improvements. So I think we can work with the project proponent on coming up with alternatives and maybe items that would be more conducive for Caltrans approval.
I have a question. So who is the project proponent, the original requester?
Yes,
Because that's quite a big job for that person.
no, staff is gonna work with that person.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
What about other community members of people? Really would help with that. That's why I was saying, there's a lot of homework to do, and they don't have a lot of staff, so whatever we can figure out and help feed them so that they can improve, we should do that if we want to.
Was it also, I mean, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this now, but there was a traffic calming plan for Via Del Monte that was in the early 2000s. That traffic engineers that were hired by the city came and did, and I thought it had a component.
That's the one she mentioned in public comment.
Okay.
Move on. The next one would be the radar tube signs. So it's very much.
Sorry, so now just for clarification, we're going into the cutoff projects.
I would say radar speed signs being the toughest part is finding the location. And I think, like Dennis says, the more residents can do, well, propose them and talk to people on their street or the street that they want to comment on, we have a find location for them. They can definitely talk to the city to get ideas of where traffic wise they might be best, but finding, going out, talking to residents, knocking on doors, saying, hey, this would be a good place, would you be opposed to it, or would you support a radar speed sign? The more the residents and submitters and NCIP reps can do themselves and help the city, the more likely it'll get done in a quicker and efficient way too.
So committee member Yanish, do you have a motion towards that?
It sounds like there's maybe a motion to return it to the submitter for more information.
Yeah, I think that would I know what we did for the underpass, that's getting,
All right,
So first was Monterey Vista or was first
I guess.
New Monterey? New Monterey, okay, New Monterey is first motion, okay, thank you.
Monterey Vista.
Oh, Monterey Vista?
Define.
Thank you. Monterey Vista.
Sorry. No, no, no.
Thank you.
Sorry.
All right, so I guess we'll get a roll call vote.
Yes. Aguita Oaks. Alta Mesa. Casanova Oak Knoll.
Aye.
Deer Flats.
Aye.
Del Monte, Grove Laguna Grande.
Aye.
Downtown. Fisherman's Flats.
Aye.
Glenwood,
Aye.
Monterey Vista. New Monterey,
Aye.
Oak Grove. Old Town,
Aye.
Skyline, and Villa Del Monte.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes.
The next one would be the fire safety analysis reduction program. Is there a motion for that?
The submitter's gone. Is that correct?
Well, the submitter still owns a house here and still comes back periodically, his two children live here, but, I can talk with him again, but I think he's pretty happy with what has been done, but I'll go back and talk with him. I have his phone number, so I can go see what he wants to do.
And I'll make the motion that Hans will go back and find out more information.
Second.
All right.
So roll call vote.
Aguita Oaks. Alta Mesa. Casanova Oak Knoll.
Aye.
Deer Flats.
Aye.
Del Monte Grove Laguna Grande.
Aye.
Downtown.
Aye.
Fisherman's Flats.
Aye.
Glenwood.
Aye.
Monterey Vista. New Monterey.
Aye.
Oak Grove. Old Town.
Aye.
Skyline.
Aye.
And Villa Del Monte.
Aye.
Motion passes.
The next one would be the NCIP opportunity property purchasing. Is there a motion?
Yeah, as a clarifying question, there was discussion of we buy, the fund is potentially there for potential future parks. And I also heard two people talk about low income housing, so I'm confused.
Briefly,
It could be for anything, okay,
now, we've used it in the past, we've used it for both. Or we've tried to use it for both.
so the restrictions are, there's relatively
There is,
few restrictions, okay.
The capital purchase of a real estate lease.
Okay.
So it's not that comes with maintenance, obviously.
Thank you.
That's what our third is. We can get the city staff in, but they deem for maybe if that qualifies or that's the
Oh.
appropriate to kind of talk about right now.
What specifically, because there's not a property in mind, right? This is just a fund, so it'd be hard to comment on. But just as a reminder, these are for the cutoff projects, so those will be funded if money does become available, but they're not funded as of right now.
Do we need to determine the amount?
we did,
We did.
250,000.
Oh, okay, the same.
And just as a comment, a clarifying comment from staff. So NCIP may recommend, council is the one that approves funding.
Fair motion.
Make a motion to send it to council to request they approve it, if that's appropriate.
As a cutoff project,
As a-
Yeah, yeah.
as a project.
sorry.
Can the money from the city plan be out, or is that, again, that's. maybe
This
outside of-
is lower, it's number 37, so when we do figure out the funding from the motions and the rescoping.
That's the
this-
catch.
Yes, this would still fall under the fire safety analysis if that one stays, so that's why it's a cutoff project.
There was a second, right?
Yes,
So we would do our roll call vote.
yes. Aguita Oaks.
Aye.
Alta Mesa.
Aye.
Casanova Oak Knoll.
Aye.
Deer Flats.
Aye.
Del Monte Grove Laguna Grande.
Aye.
Downtown.
Aye.
Fisherman's Flats.
Aye.
Glenwood.
Aye.
Monterey Vista.
Aye.
New Monterey.
Aye.
Oak Grove.
Aye.
Old Town.
Aye.
Skyline. And Ville Del Monte.
Aye.
Motion passes.
And the next also a cutoff project would be the two bike repair stations.
I guess I have a clarifying question. The bike trail is how many miles long? 30 miles, and we're putting in 2 of them. Um, yeah, location is important, but we're putting in a lot more of them. I think that makes a little more sense, but I guess I'm a little hesitant about it because of some of the obvious, maintenance issues. I like the idea potentially of a alternative design, but if you're out for a bike ride and you're in the middle of nowhere, you come prepared. But if you're out in the on the rec trail, you can also call a friend or Uber or something. I don't know. My point is like, I don't know if there's huge demands, but I also only ride a little beach cruiser, so I don't go very far. So,
Is there,
nope, that was well, that was my comment. Well, okay, I'll make a motion that we send it back to to develop a more concrete plan so that it may have a little more teeth when it comes back in front of council.
would it clarify the motions to send it back to the submitter for more information?
I guess to discuss the locations, to be a little more specific and perhaps even scope of it, maybe let's add 4 or 5 more.
So,
Oh, sorry.
all right, so we have a second, so we'll have a roll call vote.
Aguada Oaks.
Aye.
Alta Mesa.
Aye.
Casanova Oak Knoll.
Aye.
Deer Flats.
Aye.
Del Monte Grove Laguna Grande.
Aye.
Downtown.
Aye.
Fisherman's Flats.
Aye.
Glenwood.
Aye.
Monterey Vista.
Aye.
New Monterey.
Aye.
Oak Grove. Old Town.
Aye.
Skyline. And Villa Del Monte.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, that's that one.
Then what would be the next?
I think that's it for that item. And we have one last item on the agenda.
And for this item, we'll have to bring it back to NCIP for voting on a new scope and recommending to council.
Move on to our next item. What else do I do?
All right, give me 1 second to make sure I have this set up properly. Okay, so on this item, we're going to discuss a proposed NCIP schedule for the upcoming cycle FY 25 and 26. What you see here in front of you is a general process flow chart, starting with council appointment and approval of NCIP representatives to a 4-year cycle. We have a general NCIP orientation meeting at the beginning of each cycle. We have a project submittal deadline for applications that it precedes the screening meeting or screening meetings. And then we have multiple project review meetings where we go over the applications and receive public comment. And then there's voting night. Once we've completed voting night, then the projects, the highest voted generally, and what I've done the last 2 years is I'll say 50 or so projects. And then keeping in mind the available funding as well, we send to the planning department for review for CEQA determination. Once we have the CEQA determination, we then go to the planning commission and the Parks and Rec Commission for their review and consistency determination with the various plans. Once we've completed those items, then we take the ranked projects with the estimates to City Council for approval of both the projects and funding. So that's kind of just to give everyone just a refresher on the process and kind of how we work through the process. What you have here, and I'm sure you can't see, so I'll just highlight some of the main points. This was last year's calendar. We started with the orientation meeting in January. We went to the nomination period closed on February 9th, so early February. And then we had the preliminary screening meeting on February 22nd, so later in the month in February. And then we had the first of 4 review meetings in March, April, and then we had 2 in April, 1 in May. So we had 1 in March, 2 in April, and 1 in May. And then we ended up with voting night on June 6th. Okay, so then after voting night, we then, as we said, we went to planning department to get CEQA determination. And then we took those projects to the planning commission on August 13th. And then we went to Parks and Rec on November 13th, and we presented to City Council on November 19th. So that was this past year. So I'm going to hand off to Andrea, Public Works Director, to continue the presentation.
Okay, thank you, Reggie. So staff has been having conversations with the chair and vice chair, which has been very helpful. I know that one of the things that came out of the Hilltop meeting is more collaboration between staff and NCIP. So I think we're having these conversations and they have been very, very helpful. So one of the things that as staff, we wanted to approach with the NCIP committee was maybe changing the schedule. The schedule has been in place for a really long time, even though we've sort of changed some processes. So I just want to kind of go over some of the points that staff wanted to discuss with the NCIP committee. So one of the things that we thought is if we could push the schedule just a little bit, it would give us a little bit of time to work on the projects before starting a new cycle. So now as we're talking about rescoping some projects, and we have about, I want to say 40 projects with the cutoff projects, in addition to the existing projects. So we're looking at a lot of projects. And if we start the cycle again in January, you know, poor Reggie here is going to come back from Christmas break, holiday break. And, you know, by the time he's starting a new project, we're going to have a lot of other projects coming. So we talked about proposing a different schedule. One of the main reasons also that came from Hilltop is additional time for meetings and collaboration between staff. So let's work on a scope together. Just because, and again, I'm just gonna use kind of a silly analogy, but you know, if you go to a doctor and you say, I want amoxicillin and you know, for what? Well, no, can you just write me a prescription? What are we trying to solve? So as staff, we want to help figure out what are we trying to solve. So maybe the scope can be worked on so that we can solve the issue, maybe a little bit better, faster, cheaper. So working on that scope is very, very important. The proposed calendar also better aligns with the capital improvement program and information on current infrastructure and ADA needs. So we went to council on the 29th of May this year, and we let council know what the state of the infrastructure is. We said we would go and do building assessments and assessments of our streets and come back to council with our findings. So what that would do is it would align the timing so that NCIP committee has that full picture as well. So you know exactly what the deficiencies are, you know exactly what the state of the infrastructure of the city is as we work through all of these projects. We also get increased time to scope projects, which I talked about with city staff and the NCIP representative, a little bit of time to work together. The time also gets reallocated where we need it. So just to give you a little bit of history, and I'm sorry Tom Reeves left because he would have probably remembered how it was. So we had a full staff of engineers came NCIP when we got the closure for the deadline. All the projects were submitted. Everybody stopped what they're doing. We had, I want to say 10, 12 engineers. All we did were estimates. So we did some pretty detailed estimates for voting night. we don't have that capacity anymore, even with consultants. So what we're going for in voting night are estimates that are educated estimates, but they're not very, it makes no sense to spend that much amount of money with a consultant to get such detailed estimates on projects that may not be recommended to council. So we're trying to save NCIP money, and we're trying to figure out how better allocate staff time and the funding. So it happens that we don't need that much time between when the nominations end and voting night as much as we used to. What we do also need now is more time between when the projects are voted on and they go to council, because that's when we try to get the estimates more refined. So this is one of the things that we also brought up. Slide, please. So we were talking about maybe delaying the cycle to start on April 20. And again, please just keep in mind these months are just picked as an example. It doesn't mean it needs to be April. These are just suggestions. So an orientation meeting, then we also would extend maybe the project nomination period. So in the past, it was 4 weeks. Maybe we do something a little bit longer that enables better collaboration. Also, the city council guidance and CIP committee before nominations are due, because in the past, again, the city council guidance and CIP committee was after the nominations were done. So it kind of fell in a weird spot. So maybe council can let you know what their priorities are before the nominations are due. And again, just more city staff and NCIP committee collaboration meetings in the middle. So adding a couple more meetings, but I think those are valuable meetings before voting night. So this is the end of this part of the presentation. And then we'll have NCIP committee questions, but I know that the chair would like us to include a couple of points. So the next slide that Reggie is going to present, they are actually requested by the chair that we put it on the screen for discussion.
So, we have been having some conversations about the schedule, possible changes to the schedule, and I had a lot of questions related to that. So the first question is, would it be possible to continue our current schedule? So having that January to June meeting schedule. And it sounds like staff does need a little bit more time, so would we be able to consider holding new projects for the upcoming cycle? And this would give us time to review all of the current projects, which I don't think we have done. So going from 2017, 2018, 2019, 2022, 2023. But really looking at those projects and having the time to discuss them. I think it would be challenging to kind of look at process and improving collaboration and talking about prioritization at the same time of reviewing a whole new slew of projects. So would one possibility be we can keep the schedule, we hold new projects for this cycle, and the next question would be, well, what would that look like if we didn't have projects? So that would be the next slide. So what that would look like is, again, the goal of this cycle would be to review all of the projects. We could still break it down, first review, second review, voting night, break down projects by neighborhood. We would have the opportunity to look at why projects are stalled or not being able to get done due to different challenges or barriers. We would have the opportunity to go back as NCIP next to the submitter to rescope projects to be reconsidered, as opposed to them just sitting there and not being done because there are issues with getting them done. In terms of how we want to utilize, or what recommendations you would make to utilize to city council to utilize the funds. We can make recommendations to the city to add additional funds to already to the current projects that are already there. We can also consider maybe 1 or 2 multi-neighborhood projects that could get done during that cycle while we are looking at process. One thought would be there's a lot of ADA upgrades that need to be done, so that could be an idea for a multi-neighborhood project that we can fund and actually get work started on that while we're taking the time to kind of review our the current projects, review the process. We still have that voting night, and the voting night would be the recommendations regarding the projects. And then the last one has to do with improving communication and collaboration. So how can we add additional meetings with NCIP and either city council or city staff so that there can be, we can work together a lot better. And would be able to ask for a presentation that is specific to projects and including things like what the challenges are, what the barriers are, what the time frame for completion would be, taking into account the average number of completed projects per year and the staff's bandwidth, and being able to work with different contractors and consultants. And then really just identifying ways that we can optimize project completion. So if staff's able to bundle contracts for similar projects, which they are already doing, then that can also be helpful in making sure that projects are getting done. So some questions related to keeping the current schedule. Can we hold projects this cycle to be able to have the time to just look at what we have and assess the challenges and barriers and be able to improve communication and also be able to work better with staff. So, are there other, this is open for
Questions.
committee questions, so that would be clarifying questions. So are there any committee questions?
Well, I think we need to look at this in the long term too. We have like $6 million a year come in to NCIP budgets. And we can only do on average, let's say $2 million worth of projects a year or whatever. In the project style that we're doing them now in. How are we gonna get to being able to finish projects that residents submit in a reasonable amount of time? Because I think the biggest problem we have now is people submit projects, they work hard to get them funded and they never get built. They don't get built for a long time, and it really frustrates neighbors and residents. And prices go up and they become, some projects become unrealistic. So, either do we, get more engineers on the projects to be able to do more, or are we, if we're limited to the number of engineers we have, and we don't, should we only fund as many projects as we can really do and decide that the rest of the money goes to certain larger projects such as, I always say undergrounding and forest management, but they can go to to other bigger things that we can decide.
I'm sorry. So this is,
I think that's something we really need to look at.
yeah, I agree. And I think we'll have time during discussion to talk
All right.
about that more, but in terms of clarifying questions, I can pick a piece of maybe what you
Clarifying
said.
is where's the future view? The long-term view.
Yes, but I did hear a question about staffing and resources and maybe other.
So for the first time, and since I've been with the city, and I've been with the city for 24 years, I started when I was 10. I didn't. So for the first time ever, we're doing continuing recruitments. We've always usually done recruitment for engineers and project managers that were, closed in 3 weeks or 4 weeks, and then we get a pool of candidates. We're finding that it's just not, it's continuous. It is basically open until filled. We're finding that everybody is struggling for engineers and project managers. We are also utilizing consultants, but we find that they're also struggling for engineers and project managers. So the bandwidth, we don't have a way to increase capacity really. Reggie does like his weekends and evenings. So again, it's been a very big challenge.
And we have to work with those challenges in a realistic way, and I think that's what we need to get realistic, and I
Thank
think.
you for that question.
Go ahead.
Are you proposing that we don't include any new projects next year? Is that what you're saying?
I am proposing that we don't accept new projects. However, in terms of the recommendations that we can make to city council regarding funding for projects, that money for that cycle can go to, we can recommend that it goes to additional, we can recommend additional funding can go to existing projects so that they can be done. Or we can, as a committee, discuss, some multi-neighborhood project, that a multi-neighborhood project, so it would not be new projects that are coming in.
Question. Can we also hold money just in reserve? I know it's been done in the past. It's can't be spent. It's not gonna go always and just be saved for the future, right?
Yes.
What's gonna happen, just because we've got to think about the whole thing here. Say there's a project from 2017, whether it has phases in it or whatever it is. Let's just say, okay, originally it was just 2 phases and it's $200,000. Now it's tripled. Where are we gonna get the money? Is it still feasible to do? Is it gonna have to go back to the drawing board and, locations or whatever? Is the proponent still around that if he or she even wants it anymore? Maybe the neighborhood's like, oh, forget about it. Or they've got a better idea. They want to change it. These are a lot of what ifs, but we have to think about that kind of stuff. Doing this procedure is a whole new thing to us. I think we need to clean out the closet, so to speak, to the drawers, the refrigerator, I'll use whatever term, so nobody's offended. And go back to square one. Because if we just keep taking projects in, we're gonna get backed up again in the barn.
Thank you.
The other thing is.
Wait, sorry, I'm gonna interrupt. So we want to do clarifying questions now, and then we'll have time for discussion. So we can kind of go into a little bit more of what you're talking about.
Okay.
Are there any other clarifying questions from new members? So we'll close questions from committee members and then we'll open for public comment.
Comment.
Is there anyone in the public here that would like to comment? One person, anyone else? Okay, anyone online? No? Okay.
There's nobody online.
I'm here as the alternate for, the
There's no one online.
I actually would like to make my comment as a person who submitted the project in 2018. I think it's very, very salient, conversation. And just from personal experience with the ins and outs of the current process, would really support and suggest that we do that, looking at how are the projects that have already been approved going to either stay or leave or get done. And then think about how this group together can make decisions where the projects that are taken on can be done within a reasonable amount of time. I mean, nothing, depends on the project, depends on what's happening. Which means probably that there have to be less. And I think that's okay, because I think people will feel more satisfied at the work of the group and of the whole, nature of the project. That's all I have to say.
So we'll go ahead and close public comment, and now we'll come to NCIP committee discussion. Yes. All right, so we'll go by neighborhood. First we have Leo Oaks.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate the thought that everyone's put in with kind of like the plan to go back and through the catalog of projects that exist. I am like hesitant to say that we should not consider any new projects in this tax cycle though. And part of that is just new needs. Not all the new needs can be addressed by re-scoping existing projects in all likelihood. And so, considering that and considering the backlog, I might one idea would be to, still consider projects in this next cycle, but as a committee, be a little bit more deliberate about the setting expectations for funding, so many projects that will likely not get seen to fruition in a timely manner. And so one thought is, saying like, hey, it's like if we can still have an open cycle, as a committee select 5 projects that we think would be appropriate to fund in the recommend for funding in the cycle while preserving the remaining NCIP funds to address these needs. I think that might be the middle ground that we can strike, but I'd be curious to hear others' ideas on how to not, it just would kind of express my interest in maintaining an open submission cycle for this year.
Open Lisa?
Yeah, well, I agree with what you're saying. I think we shouldn't preclude anything new. But definitely slow down all your comments and what you've presented to us, make it understandable how we've gotten to this position, and we have to be very careful going forward and we can resolve all those unresolved issues and wait for staffing to improve hopefully. So yeah, that's what I'll see. That's a little bit.
I'm very much in agreement with what Adam said. I'm wondering if there's a way to do the idea about kind of doing, for lack of a better word, like the inventory of the backlog projects, determine how many are feasible, and then based upon that, decide with discussions with staff, how many could be funded and sent through of the new projects based on that. So instead of just saying, base our number, he used exactly 5, but base that number on after we do that inventory of the backlog projects, which, were feasible, which are not feasible because costs have gone up, which ones the original submitters no longer think is necessary or there's a need for. So, so like kind of a hybrid between the two, I think is probably the way we should go, because I don't want to preclude new ideas. And I don't want to send the message to people who do want to submit projects that we're just not going to accept any submittals this year. And then that might make them not want to once we are through that backlog. So I don't want to send that message out that we're going to not accept new ideas. But I think there has to be a balance between the backlog projects and new projects that are coming in.
Your thoughts?
This is a healthy conversation, so this is what we're here for, right? I mean, I believe that's, and I do agree with that. I think there needs to be a hybrid plan. We do represent our neighborhoods, and we represent the voice of the people who live in our areas. And to tell them you don't have a voice for a year, I don't think it sends the right message. But we also, on the flip side, if we are nominating lots of projects and they're just not getting done, that also has a bad optic. I mean, what are we here for? So there's a happy, I think we need to find a happy medium. So I support this conversation. Don't have any answers.
Del Monte Beach,
Not here.
Del Monte Grove, Laguna Grande.
This addresses the concerns I've been having about better communication with staff and more time to get better estimates and information back to the committee about projects. So I'm in general favor of it, but I don't think we should completely close the door to new projects for the reasons you just discussed. There may be some, maybe a handful of really important pressing issues that we need to do. I wouldn't want to completely have to set those aside.
Steve, correct.
In downtown.
Okay, so, yeah, I think we have to have new projects coming in. The city parks and rec and the sports center and the city relies on NCIP funding some of those projects. And if we say, not gonna do it this year, that may have really bad consequences, so we absolutely have to have that. And then I hear about hybrid and doing all of that, but we have policies and procedures manual. And it says, this is what we must do. And unless we're gonna change that before next year, we can't go and make this hybrid. We have to vote on the projects. And that determines what we fund. So, and then we just go down by rank, and that's the way this committee works. And we can't change that unless we change the policy. So saying all these things is wonderful, but we've got to do what the policy and procedures say. So, and I like the idea of extending, what I don't like about your idea is, I don't like the idea that it goes before city council right before we start voting. I'd like to have more idea of how much funding we had before we have to go into voting. Because the city council can, as we already know, strike off some specific projects. So that's it.
Commissioner Fox?
Excuse me. I agree with everyone else. I think that we probably should be, going on with for you.
Oh, boy. I'd like to keep the door open and maybe limit 10 projects. Pat from Monte Vista had that idea a couple years ago, and I was like, and listening, thinking about it more, I'd like to keep that door open because I think we really need to keep, we've got to be open to our neighborhood and the people that submit these to keep going. I think we should be smart about it, though, when the acts start coming in. Just a suggestion to make it better use of time of everyone and more efficient is to have the applicant take the project, if they will, through their neighborhood association. They're going to get support and backup there. They're going to get maybe fine-tuned and better ideas. And we're not screwing around with looking for locations. I mean, these 6 projects have got more mileage on them than my car does, going back and forth. They need to be better prepared and scrutinized. Then we've really fine-tuned and nailed down to what that project means and what it's going to get. That's going to help with staff time. So then I don't have to putz around with, well, send it back. Well, what's your location? Well, I don't know. The city could decide. We need to come to people. We need these applications to become prepared. And there's going to be a few that still need, you know, a little adjusting and things like that. But I think it's a better use and more productive of everyone's time. I'm not sure if we need to change something in the charter or our rules and stuff, because last thing I want to do is go to war with the city again and go through all that tchotchke, waste of time. It's not a good positive thing on anybody's side. Did I forget anything? And I think it's going to help the workload for the engineers department. I mean, if you've got any relatives that need work that are engineers, Andrea, give them the phone number. You know, all these cities, and particularly us, we need the help and stuff there. The locations, the fine tuning of these things. And I think if the applicant will go to the association and they should make the thing, review it together. So it's not just one person, not just the president looking at it, that everybody puts their input on it and fine tunes it and they get behind it. And they've thought about all the ifs and ands and stuff. Going back, if we go back and review all those projects for the last 5 years, we're going to find some, they're not even feasible anymore. It's going to cost 3 times as much. We're just gone of all kinds of variables with these previous projects. Some of them are still really good. Some of them need to be redesigned, or they need further study. So again, it's going to be a comeback to do. And that's why I say if we maybe limit to like 10 projects, and it's the first 10 in, first come, first serve. Because these guys are going to be, you know, we're going to have to go back with them, with the staff, looking at the old projects, trying to work on the new ones. The new ones are better prepared. It's easier to review the old ones because we've come a long way on all what our standards and the procedures in the city and the working and the contractors. We've come a long way with that. So we're in a better position. But so keep the door open a crack. Let's clean up our backyard. And there was reasons that we got the problems with the backyard. We can't cry over it anymore or blame people. We just need to clean it up and call 1-800-JUNK and get it out of there. Clean up our backlog and do what we have to do. Thanks.
Monterey Bissell?
Well, I think in the short term, yes, I think you agree, we can't stop taking projects. We have our procedures named, but I think what we need is, we need to schedule among us a workshop and maybe, with city staff or each members as well. But schedule a real workshop and figure out how we're gonna work in the future, given our current limits, and have a real workshop where we break into subgroups and everything else and get ideas and bring ideas forward and kind of come to a new method that's fit for today's realities and update our procedures manual to follow a new rule. And it might even take 2 workshops or so, but I think we need to come together and figure out a way, learn what we have done, but learn also or realize that we can't just bankroll, and accumulate millions of dollars that sit there, earn us interest and give us some this bang every now and then, but we need to, and then we lose the next time the city has a crisis and they can take all the money from us, when there's a fiscal crisis and we start over from scratch and lose big projects we've been working on. So I think it's important that we kind of go back and really figure out the way we want to run in the future so that we can do projects on time properly and do what NCIP is supposed to do. So I would say we scheduled a couple of workshops and trying to figure out a long-term plan.
So I'll make some comments. So I think it's really, I think it would be very challenging to try to review all of the current projects, and have workshops and more meetings, and on top of that, review new projects and go through the whole cycle. I don't think all of that can happen at the same time. I'm not opposed to the idea of, maybe doing like a hybrid where we do accept projects. But I do understand that that is really important for residents. But perhaps being very mindful of choosing larger projects, so we're not adding another 30, 40 projects to what we already have in terms of the backlog. And I agree with Lee. I think if we do go back and look at some of the projects, some of them may not necessarily be feasible anymore. And that money is just appropriated for that and to be used for other things. I think if we look back at the current projects, we also may find, to your point, that now it's more expensive to complete and that project needs more money. And so during this cycle, we can recommend that additional funding goes to those projects that are feasible, but now may be more expensive. So I would just be mindful about what we can actually accomplish, especially if we are looking at, if we're kind of going through that whole procedure and we're looking at new projects, with the understanding that I feel like it's pretty clear that staff can only complete a certain number of projects per year. So, we need to have those conversations, and I just think it's hard to have those conversations and do a bunch of review of the number of new projects. So I'm not opposed to the idea of maybe like and someone said 5, we can figure out a number exactly, but just larger projects, multi-neighborhood projects, like I mentioned, like ADA improvements, that's something, that the city needs to take care of, and that's something that we can consider recommending, for funding, if we are able to have the time to, review everything else. And regarding the submitter going to the neighborhood association, I kind of feel like our role as NCIP reps is to review the projects and to guide the submitter in terms of, what should be included in those projects so that they are feasible and that they can get done. So I would agree that perhaps having that submitter go to the neighborhood association and getting additional support. But I think our role as reps is also important in reviewing that. For example, if there's a street light, we should, as reps, make sure that either we do it or the submitter goes around and gets all of the signatures so that we're not passing this project and recommending it for funding, and then Reggie can't do the project because one person doesn't want to do it, and that could have been identified a lot earlier. And that's, there's a lot of conversations I feel like we need to be having, and I just want to make sure that we have time to do it and that we're realistic about it, because we can say, have all of these additional workshops and this, but where are we going to find the time to do all of that? So again, I like that we're having this conversation because I think it needs to be had. And I think the purpose of this being on the public appearance is for us to start having that conversation, not necessarily to make decisions tonight, but just make sure that we're kind of thinking about those things. And it would be helpful to get a presentation, like I said, from staff about what specific projects are challenging, what specific projects have barriers. Can we as reps go back to that submitter and help rescope it? So there's a lot I think that we could be doing. I just want to make sure that we're realistic about the time that it takes to have those conversations and to do the workshops. And that we're just kind of realistic. But like I said, I'm open, and I think, maybe a hybrid could work. And I agree with Kurt, there are things that need to get taken care of, and that the city may identify as priorities, and we don't necessarily want to just close the door and just say we're not doing anything new at all. So it would need to be a deliberate conversation. I don't know about first come first serve for projects. So if we do accept, I hope we at least take the time to review all of them and maybe prioritize larger multi-neighborhood kind of projects so that we can focus on things that we need to focus on in terms of discussions. That's the end of my comments. Oak Road.
We have a group of old timers that we've been here for many years working on this program. The first time I hear everyone really voicing more about this, the new ones and the old ones. And one of the things that happened right from the beginning was to very soon start very enthusiastic with the program and the project, and then the old ones start lagging behind. And we became aware that it wasn't so simple. We have gone through many people in charge of the programs. I know you all. And I think maybe it would make sense to have the old projects reevaluate. Because it is like old wood that we don't know how to shape it. So it is a reality. And so they are dragging your work, and then we have the brand new one full of enthusiasm. And we go through the process, which is very exciting and very enthusiastic, and then we add 10 more, 20 more to the other ones. So I think what I hear everyone saying, let's figure out the old one and finding a way that maybe either we don't do them, we reproduce them as new projects, or what. I think that will help with the old one. And the new ones, yeah, we have to go with the process. We have to go with, and I think the new people will find that very exciting. You know, except that I think we need to define what is that we really want to take on. You know, a criteria that would be a little, because, you know, people are very happy to come here and work and talk about what they are approving. Oh, very enthusiastic. Okay, it passes. And then what? You know, having to go through consults, having to go through this, and then people think that that's gonna happen overnight. It's not. Okay, it's not. It's just being done behind, and so we take the next year and the next year. So this is what needs to change. You know, some way to work it so people don't have to wait years to have the project and blame on the administration. It's not their fault. They are really making miracles. And especially the last few years, it's been very productive and very tough. And so I think I love this program. And I think you will love it, all the new people. You just need to work in a better way. Okay? That's all.
I'm in favor of a hybrid model. I really came to the meeting thinking a moratorium on all the projects was really in order. You know, our neighborhood has one of the projects that's been lingering since, I think, 2017. It's very, very frustrating. I'm also hearing priorities to city projects. Is that is, you don't want to close the door to city projects?
That's not what I said.
Okay.
I
That's,
didn't give priority to anybody.
all right, not priority, but one of the reasons to keep the door open is for city project.
Yeah.
Okay, and I reference back to the grand jury that really wanted the emphasis on neighborhood projects, you know. And so, and as far as first in, first, you know, first done, of course, that's not. You know, and is there not money behind the projects that are sitting out there languishing? There's already some dollars behind those projects. So. Yes. But,
I have a whole bunch of comments. Nothing gets done without a crisis or a deadline. We have a number of projects tonight that we push back to people to come back to us with what those should do. How should we approach them? Should we do this or that? If we don't meet from January to April to get answers on those questions, analyze what's in the backlog to see what we can do about them, understand better what problems exist in that backlog and what we should or couldn't do with it. Make recommendations to city council with the funds, to add funds, whatever necessary to get that backlog fixed. Thereby telling the public that we are delaying when we're taking projects to the April period, which has been proposed. And then we do our normal process from April to the extended schedule. Then we have a set of deadlines that helps us get to closure on fixing the backlog. The public can probably appreciate that, although we make sure some of their projects are doing that because they may not be viable. Creating funding for other projects that may be viable. And then in the April to new proposed schedule sessions, work on some of the things that are very important to the city. And I'll make a comment that probably seems extreme, but we can't kill the goose that lays this egg for us. If we do something that doesn't make things work here, or we don't fix something that is important to the city of Monterey and we lose our tourism, we don't get the hotel tax, which gets us to 16%, which gets us funded. Andrea, in her presentation to the joint NIP City Council, let us know about some pretty horrific things relative to the state of the city. If our works fell down, I think our tourism would drop off, killing the goose that's laying the egg that funds us.
So it may be that we have a very large project like that that we take on in this funding season that fixes the problem to keep the goose giving us the eggs. And makes sense to the public that we're doing active things to take care of our backlog so that we can make this program function and actually run. So that they don't have the promise and range from 2017 that didn't happen. 2024. So I think we should meet in January. I think we should have perpetual meetings through April to do that analysis of the backlog and what our recommendations might be, that recommendation, but also on what's out there for the current. And then run the process as proposed by city staff, because I think that'll get us in a better place overall. I think that's what I'm about saying.
I'm confused a little bit because I thought that the NCIP or NIP project, as it was originally called, was like voted on and was legislation that was voted on initially. So can it just be changed?
Can you repeat the question?
So it was my impression from the reading I've done to prepare for being in this role that there was a vote, the voters approved the NCIP or the NIP.
It's a charter, yes.
And there was a process specified in that legislation. Like, can that, I mean, I'm all for changing it, but I just didn't think it could be changed because.
There's a policies and procedures manual.
Right.
However, it's not outside of the purview of NCIP. Sometimes when there are issues, to recommend, council defund a project, or what we used to call it a closeout. And again, it could be that NCIP, the committee has they can vote on projects. And they can make recommendations to city council to approve 5 projects. Again, the ultimate decision maker is city council for funding. But NCIP's purview is in the policies and procedures, which does not preclude NCIP to have conversations on existing projects and updates.
And there's one other thing that I know that it keeps being referenced here that people would, go to their neighborhood associations, but part of the NCIP, because I submitted a project, I didn't go through my neighborhood. So, so using the neighborhoods to kind of help maybe consolidate or improve the project proposals. Not in all cases is that gonna work, because you don't have to go through your neighborhood.
That's the analysis proposal review phase that I was talking about from January to April. We have one streetlight somebody doesn't want on their property, but that's what is required to be done under the project. And that's just an example of one that is like, okay, it's a non secular. How do you start? You can't put it on that guy's property, but it's a project that's approved. So like keep the money forever and advance, or if you make some decisions to do things alone. And in some cases, we're gonna find things that need more money. That's why I always ask for more contingency money, because I'm not happy with the people to take care of those things. But if we don't look at these 7 years worth of backlog and look at it with a new eye and a microscope, we'll never get past it. We'll just continue to build on it. And that's frankly what Reggie did there.
So I recognize, there's a lot of interest among the group to discuss. We just need to set a motion to discuss an item
Actually-
further with specifics as to what exactly you want to discuss. So since we've had everyone in the committee provide a comment, we can at this point move on to provide these motions in order to further those discussions, but we can't have the cross discussions until a motion is set. That way we're all clear as to what's being discussed. That way you can all have the chance to speak again.
Yeah,
So-
and
yes.
again, I just want to also clarify that one of the actions can be that the NCIP requests that staff come back with this proposed schedule, for action in the January meeting. That could be one of the motion, that could be a motion.
So yes, so now would be, it would be appropriate to make motions for discussion, motions for actions, those sort of things, so we can start beginning that
Then it's not a
process.
question.
I move that we do what I said, let's have the January to April period be an examination of the past projects. And have the staff presented schedules. Thereafter, consideration. We'll figure out by that point. What the projects are, what the level of projects we want the program to look at. I do agree that the proposed city schedule that allows more time for development of those middles rather than 4 weeks, a longer period of time. So that's, if you can summarize that into a motion. That's right, Bill.
Yes, Chair. Yeah,
Projects would be still submitted in February.
I think it would be more palatable to the public to say, we're taking care of the backlog to figure out how it can work. We're gonna delay when we submit projects, so we aren't gonna have these.
So I wanna submit an alternative motion that we have staff bring this up as an agenda item for action at our January meeting. So everyone has time to think about things a little bit more and not make a decision now. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, roll call vote.
Here's the motion.
To bring this back up next meeting so that we can make action. We don't have to-
What's happening in Genesis?
What? I will amend my motion to say that this is a directive to staff to come back with a proposal. in January.
okay,
Basically, all of the stuff that I put in there.
And then we're gonna discuss it in January.
It's guidance with their.
And that will be open for discussion amongst ourselves in January.
In January.
In January.
All right, so we'll take a roll call.
yes. Aguirre Oaks.
Aye.
Alta Mesa,
Aye.
Casanova Oak Knoll,
Aye.
Deer Flats,
Aye.
Del Monte Grove Laguna Grande,
Aye.
Downtown,
Aye.
Fisherman's Flats,
Aye.
Glenwood,
Aye.
Monterey Vista, New Monterey,
Aye.
Oak Grove,
Aye.
Old Town,
Aye.
Skyline, and Villa Del Monte.
Aye. Motion passed.
Can I make another motion?
Yes, you can make other motions as well.
It's a short one. So the motion I'd like to make is, can we ask the staff to propose perhaps what a fully vetted project looks like, so we can, anything that comes in that's new, we have a little bit more perhaps criteria, so that we don't spin our wheels on something that perhaps is not fully developed.
So
Or
I
is-
I
would,
like that development. I like that one.
that could be a recommendation. I don't know that, there should be a vote just because it's not on the agenda. So, like the city attorney said, it's not,
I'm,
Yeah.
I'm new to all this.
violation of
order,
the
so
Brown Act. So,
That's,
so we can work on bringing something and then it'll be in the agenda so that there can be a discussion.
I'd love to see what does a great looking proposal look like versus what is a crummy one.
So should we make a motion for the group to agendize that item for the next meeting?
We can put it on the agenda.
Okay,
Would you like to make that a motion
Yeah.
to put it in the agenda?
That's
Yes,
fine.
I would like to make a motion for that.
and do we have a second?
Roll call vote.
Aguirre Oaks, Alta Mesa, Casanova Oak Knoll,
Aye.
Deer Flats,
Aye.
Del Monte Grove Laguna Grande,
Aye.
Downtown,
Aye.
Fisherman's Flats,
Aye.
Glenwood,
Aye.
Monterey Vista, New Monterey,
Aye.
Oak Grove,
Aye.
Old Town,
Aye.
Skyline,
Aye.
and Villa Del Monte.
I,
That passes.
Sounds good.
I just had a point of clarification. So we accept applications all year. It's the only thing that would be open for discussion, I guess, would be when applications close. So people have already submitted applications. So we're not debating on whether or not when you would open for applications, is when the period would close for consideration.
We'll bring a schedule.
Did the earlier motion kind of cover the clarity on what actions we actually can take on the backlog of projects? It seems like we can have a recommendation in council to halt funding and kind of reallocate it, but beyond that,
I think staff will have to look at the calendar, but I think that Ruthie is not gonna set it there, and I think they agree with it. Because we've had discussions that we need to go through the backlog. Okay.
Yes, and the motion is consisted of that as being part of the discussion for the next meeting. Any,
But we can't talk back and forth unless it's a motion.
Do you want a motion to talk back and forth?
I got the motion, girl. Now, I can speak later. I just was thinking of a process of how it's gonna be better to fine tune the old projects and get our echelon people, sometimes just getting a procedure how to do it, and we don't all have to be here and have 17 workshops. Because the last time we tried to have a workshop, Hans said no. We would try to do the little workshop with the city, and we wound up going up to Hilltop. So I just think we need a procedure to make it fine tuned for us to look at these, at the seasoned projects.
Yeah, and I think that one of the processes that we've started again is meeting with the chair and vice chair and fine tuning the next agenda and the next meeting so that these conversations can happen. And I think that that's been working really well, so.
thank you.
Recommendation? Motion? No recommendation. Can I do that?
You can make a motion for a recommendation.
Every one of us, Reggie showed us how to go look at the project list. Every one of us should be out there before January, looking at that list and figuring out what we think is a good or bad project.
Yes. So I'm going to close. Unless you have
I'd like to make that we have at some point, not necessarily this year, but at some point have one or two workshops to really look at how NCIP, how we want to work in the future to make NCIP viable without getting us into this problem of having way more projects than we can build. It's like that was a good reason. We just can't.
No, I do think that's part of the motion that we wanted to.
Yes, yes, that would be included as part of
As a workshop where we divide into.
Yeah, so part of the.
January to April before we do the regular job.
Okay.
But now analyze,
And we have a tentative scheduled date for the January meeting was January 15th. 15th. Wednesday.
And then. I think the only thing you have is just committee member.
Yes, final comments.
Okay, so final comments and you go by neighborhood.
Yes.
Okay. So I'll lead those.
it's good to see everybody.
Open it up. Councilor O'Connell.
Always nice seeing everybody. I hope everybody has a happy holiday if you celebrate. I think this is a very productive meeting in terms of discussing and giving some things to think about for our next meeting on how we want to, what direction we want to go. In terms of dealing with the backlog and dealing with new project submittals. And that's it. So have a good holiday, everybody. Your thoughts?
Thank you for your comments about opportunity cost. I didn't think about that, so point well taken. Happy holidays. I'm hungry.
We'll skip Del Monte Beach, we're not here, Del Monte Grove, we're gonna go under.
many thanks to Reggie for being persistent with the radar speed sign on Casanova.
And all the other questions.
It took 3 tries and we finally settled on the 4th location and we pulled it back from the closeout list at least once. So thank you, done.
Downtown,
Everybody have a happy holiday.
Fisherman Butts. Lily?
Good job, Parker. We always tell, we know how good what the Gold Stars Reggie's got, but good God tonight, good job.
What about me?
And
No, I'm just kidding.
Andrew, you forget I knew you when. And have a happy, but make it a safe holiday, everybody.
Great having the 3 of you here. I think that probably helps. But yeah. It's main NCIP have a lot.
Go through it. Old Town?
I just wanted to say, happy holidays and we'll see you next year.
Old Town? And ditto. Starlight?
Happy holidays and get your rest because we have a lot of work to do.
Good evening, everyone.
Perfect compared to what we used to do.
My comment.
This is an early meeting.
Thank you, everyone.
Because of
So
voting night.
first meeting as chair, I will get better. Say that a lot of really great discussions. It's actually really exciting that we're having these discussions and looking forward to continuing to work closely with our community faculty. It's been amazing so far. And happy holidays.
Adjourn.
Adjourn. Meeting is.
There's some free light bulbs up front.